welcome to Thriving Rockstar with Alex Rick, and today's guest is Cory Young. How are you, Cory?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there as best as I could be in this, crazy time.
Weird times.
Yes.
Weird times. Oh my God, are we gonna get through 2020?
I don't know. Hopefully we could get through these months as fast as possible because I just want it to be 2021 by now. This is insane.
Yeah, want to go back on tour and like do
yes.
all.
Well, right before everything went down, the coronavirus, and everything else that's going on, I was scheduling my first tour the day before we went on lockdown. I was like, gosh, dang it.
Wow.
So yeah, I was super excited about that, but I'll have to wait.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always the silver linings, right? And
yeah,
all like pretty much every episode during this quarantine I've had, it's been like kind of discussing like, okay, well, what are you up to now? Like, how are you doing? Well, let me know. Like, what have you been doing? Like, how have you been using this productively?
Well, at first it was like I was getting nothing done. I was like, just oh my gosh, I was literally just watching Netflix all day, just YouTube and that type of stuff. But then, because I felt really discouraged, that the year wasn't going to continue in the way I thought it was going to go. So then, I actually got more done after 2 weeks of doing nothing. I started being really productive and writing songs and releasing songs. So that's how I've been kind of using my time. I've been doing Zoom calls with my producer Gio, and we've been getting a lot done. So I've just been releasing music. I actually released 3 singles through this quarantine. So
very good. Yeah, I like my band took on a cover project, and but it's funny because we had like also things planned, having like a music video shoot planned in April, totally got canceled.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We sort of move with the times, and we have to be flexible. Sometimes like life doesn't go according to our plans. So
exactly. So we just gotta go with the flow. And I think this is definitely a blessing in disguise for sure. Everything's slowing down. And I know some people it's really rough, but for some people, if you're blessed to not be worried about money as much, you have actually a lot more time to get ahead of the curve, So I think I'm trying to look at it in a positive way.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's definitely the case. Even if you've been put into a disadvantage through this situation,
yes. Yeah.
It's not a helpful thing to kind of hold like the victim card about it, because it's like that's
Yeah.
not going to get us anywhere.
Exactly. It's going to make you feel more discouraged, and you're just going to fall into a deep black hole, and you're going to be, I don't know, just freaking out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a better idea to, just be productive and like, so what was the culprit? Like, what was the catalyst? So you Netflixed for a few weeks, and then like, what was it like? Oh fuck, I'm tired of doing this.
Like, I think the catalyst was, well, it's a little bit more complicated for me personally, because I didn't want to get into this as much, because it's a little bit of a very low note for me. But actually, my dad passed away 2 months ago from COVID-19. So
wow.
That's a whole nother story as far as like depression and that goes. So the catalyst was actually he was really excited about some of the things that were coming up in my music career. So I was still struggling with going up and down, it's sadness comes in waves, but I'm just trying to make him, or I basically the cliche answer and make him proud, because he was really excited about certain things. So, he had one of my songs as ringtone on his phone, and it was just like, it was, basically my family is like my biggest fan. So that was a catalyst. I just got off my butt and just said, I'm going to keep going, because I started getting into a weirder place each day. It got worse and worse when I was doing nothing. And at first you can't really do anything. And I still have days where I'm like, I can't do anything today. I'm just going to do nothing and essentially just be depressed and lay in bed. but on the days I feel productive, I'm just like, what? The catalyst was not giving up on life and just making my dad proud. So
yeah, dude, I like that's really tough. I lost my grandfather, but that's like also like a couple months ago. And
wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So but I mean, losing a parent is even closer to home. That's really
Yeah.
really tough. So yeah, I didn't know. So sorry for that
Yeah, I
trigger
didn't want.
point.
Yeah, I didn't want. I didn't want to. I didn't want. I was gonna not talk about it, but it's just what's happening right now. So I have to. I can't. There's no way around it because that's like what's shaping the rest of my life right now. So
Yeah, I know that's huge. So I mean, this time is has that strong anchor for you.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So the cat. Yeah. Basically, I got to keep going. You can't give up on life.
Yeah, and and the stuff that you're doing right now, you're exploring because you're about to go into the touring thing.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
life said nope. The universe
Yeah.
said
Like
nope.
a hard no. Like
Hard no.
everything is like anything you thought was your future or the immediate future canceled. Just all of it. I'm like, oh my goodness. But
Oh yeah.
it again. You got to make the best of it. Yeah.
Yeah. As much as this is a collective thing that everyone's going through, it's also an individual thing for every person, and
Yeah.
a life lesson, for everybody in their individual contexts.
Yes.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's fascinating, and it's interesting to hear how other people are going about this kind of thing. I mean, I find people who are like, let's say, 9 to 5ers working regular jobs, non-musicians mostly, would basically like go home and Netflix after at the end of every day,
Yes.
and then so when
Yeah.
they didn't have like works, they just Netflixed all day.
The whole time they're like, what? Oh, there's nothing to do. Especially if
Right.
you're getting stimulus checks and you're like, oh wow, I'm not worried about money right now. I don't have to work. And then I feel like I started realizing when I was just doing nothing all day that people like to work, even though you don't think you like to work. I feel like the human nature, you have to work, but you want it to be something you want to do. So obviously, if you're doing a job you don't want to, be working at,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But I was like, I'm doing music. I want to write songs. Why would I not? So once that clicked too, I was like, I'm gonna take this and run with it.
Right.
There's a lot of free time.
Yeah, I mean, we have the benefit of loving what we do, and doing what we love, right?
Yes, exactly.
But even in the context of somebody who works something that might seem mundane on the surface, and even to themselves, when not having that and not having that regularity and that sense of purpose and meaning in their life, then it's just like they're left with this void.
That's true. That is true. Because you're right. Even if it's something you're not necessarily super excited to go to every day, it still gives you some structure. It makes you have some form of accomplishment that day. And then you're like, okay, now I can veg. But if you're vegging all day, too much of a good thing is always a bad thing.
Sure. I mean, like, there's a time and place for vegging,
Yeah, exactly.
But, like that's the thing. It's like, recovery is important,
Absolutely.
But too much recovery is also makes you restless, and, that'll make you tired,
Yeah, and I gained some weight during this quarantine.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was closed. Everything. And the only thing that's open is Postmate, or restaurants. You're Postmating food to your house, and you're just gaining. I think I gained like 15, 20 pounds.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of weight has been shuffled around, Some people took on big diet programs, some people put on a ton of weight.
Yes, yeah. So I got to start my regimen. The summer has started. It's already here, so I'm like, oh no, what's about to happen? I go to the beach.
Do you have a plan, or?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna do probably intermittent fasting, and then
Good idea.
just hit the gym again. I just got to work. I like working out, but once you don't work out for a while,
Oh, yeah.
you get used to it, and you're like, oh, maybe working out's not such a good thing.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I've, save for like, a week here and there, in certain contexts, I've trained consistently for like, I don't know, 8 years or something. So,
Nice. There we go.
And I feel weird when I don't.
Yeah.
But then,
that's good that you
yeah.
have that feeling, though. That's really, because I'm trying to get back to that grind. Because
Yeah.
for me, now I don't feel weird that I'm not working out. And that's the dangerous part. That's when you start falling into that lazy
yeah.
pattern. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The last time I've been there was like, in my earlier like 20s, just video games, and like, you forget to do not to train, but not to a lot of things.
Yeah.
When you
Oh, I
start
totally
playing
get you.
when you start playing RPGs, and yeah, it's the end.
No, I know what you're saying. That is funny.
So yeah, I mean, like the structure, yeah. So like people who've lost that structure, it could be very tough for them. You know,
Yeah.
you know the book Flow?
Flow. It sounds familiar. I don't. I've
The author,
not.
I'm gonna butcher his name. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I think it's something like that.
Okay.
It's a book from the '70s by this psychologist on the state of flow, which is like what that's he coined the term flow.
Hmm.
Then that's what athletes call the zone. You know, like that.
Oh, the
Yeah.
flow. When people say your workflow, is that's where that came from?
Well, like if an athlete is in like this state where everything else disappears, they're just so connected to the moment, everything's in slow motion. They can like,
Hmm.
they operate in this
Okay.
like peak state, right? And
Yeah.
so the way to induce that state, and that doesn't have to be something on like a peak level. That's something that
Hmm.
like even someone working a machine in a factory can induce.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and that's like basically being and you do this when you're practicing probably where you
Yeah.
hold yourself like 105% of your ability,
Hmm.
so you
I
have
know
like,
exactly what you're
yeah.
saying. Now I said, yeah, that's an interesting concept because I didn't even know I was doing that when I was practicing. But now that you say that, I definitely have had many of those moments with like American Idol and like some other moments where you're just like locked in, or just when you get in a zone of practicing, like you said, my guitar, where when everything is perfect and you're at that peak level performance, you just it feels very good. It feels there's nothing like it.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, you're American Idol. You've been on American Idol.
Yes, that
So
was a cool experience.
yeah, so let's yeah, tell me about that, like the road to that and how that came about and like why you
So
decided that.
the road to that, I actually tried out for AGT 6 times. I tried out for The Voice a couple times. Tried out for American Idol 2 times before that, and
Right.
then in the year after, I was like, I'm done with reality TV shows. I don't need it. They called me and they're like, Hey, do our? They skipped me past certain like the first 2 levels of because there's a lot of people don't know, but there's like 4 rounds before the audition round. So I went to like the round right before 2 rounds right before the judge rounds, and I was like, okay, I got a head start. Went in there, it went well, and then they were like, do you want to do the audition for the celebrity judges? And I was like, yeah, of course, because I've been trying to get some exposure in that way, and the experience was cool. It's a lot. I think the best part for me was meeting people, meeting all these people trying to do the same exact thing, have the same focus. But it's definitely not. It's not. It's a little bit more fake than I thought. Like things are staged. I should have known. TV's staged.
Sure.
Not to say it's like a phony TV show, but it's just I was learning things like, oh, this whole scene is taking 12 hours to film. Goodness gracious, and it's like a 30-second clip. Like,
That's hilarious.
yeah, you're just waiting in this room for like 13 hours, and everything is so thought out. And then they have all these. I can see like the producers filming the filmers filming hours and hours of clips, and then when I watched the TV show, I was like, that is 1 minute. They're just gonna show 1 minute of that part, and I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah. So that was eye opening. But for the most part, it was cool. I made it to Hollywood. I got the golden ticket, and I made it to Hollywood Week. And then I just messed up in Hollywood Week. Like I don't want to make excuses, so I'm not going to talk about what happened. But it just didn't go the way I wanted it to. But that's actually a blessing in disguise for me because there's certain contracts you have to sign that I couldn't be doing certain things that I'm doing right now. Like I just got a placement in a Netflix film and certain things that you can't necessarily do if you're under their contract. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't talk about the placement yet, but you guys will probably hear it, which is exciting.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's cool. That does sound exciting. And people, this is not often discussed, like the kind of business end of things.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in on this was at the Petrucci camp. Tosin Abasi was talking about business.
Yes.
And
yes.
yeah, and this was like in the second one. So I was there. That's I guess 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, in August. And that's John Petrucci's Guitar Universe. And those
Yeah.
of you listening, I highly recommend it because it's just so much fun. And it's a great thing to go to a thing where like you meet a bunch of like-minded people
Oh yeah.
and have burgers cooked by Petrucci. Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
that sounds good. That sounds really good. I want to go. You already sold me right there.
yeah.
I'm going. Oh
Oh,
man.
I'll be seeing you there then. So, um, so I mean, he was discussing like the leverage that you get from like building up your social media,
Hmm.
and that's
Oh
huge.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that came the lever actually that goes hand in hand with the American Idol thing because I think personally I got the call back because like the year later when I kept getting rejected because I started getting followers on social media, and I think the producer that like denied me the like a couple years before they saw me like oh like I think they stumbled into my social media because I got a message like hey what's up American Idol or something and then they emailed me so they probably saw me on the Explore page and like oh that's the guy we said no to and now he's getting some like gaining followers and he almost has like whatever amount of followers so that probably is what was the tipping point so yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Did you keep dealing with them after that point, or like what was the?
Um,
Mm-hmm.
no, the way it works, are you saying with the producers and
Yeah.
the people that work? I still follow a couple of them, but it's they work exclusively for the show. So maybe like if in the future they don't work for that show anymore and they're working for a different show or a different firm or like a label, maybe like that would come in handy. But I'm not really connected with them in that way right now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think what like if it's musicians listening can kind of take away, just because something's over doesn't mean it's over.
Yes, exactly. Just because something's over doesn't mean it's over. Always, I'd like to always like leverage my connections, make sure I'm in contact with people that I thought were cool, not the jerks, but the people I was like, you're pretty cool. You see me as a person, even though you're in a higher, you're an authority. What am I trying to say? You're in a higher position over me. You're still addressing me as like a human being, and I can work with that, because there's some people that definitely are jerks in the industry, and it's hard to connect with them and stay. They don't even want to follow you back or whatever. They don't want to do anything. They're just like, you're a peasant.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not worth it chasing those. Yeah.
Exactly. But definitely for those who are listening, if you're meeting people that, you're networking with someone, always network with the people that are, nice to you and then follow up with them because they're nice. So they're not going to get mad if you maybe email them one or two times and be like, hey, what about this or that? But, be careful with the follow-ups, though. Don't go too overboard with that.
Yeah. Don't like start like sending them, just spamming or just like really unrelated stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Because, you already have the, you got their attention. And don't lose their attention by
exactly exactly by making them be like oh now I'm gonna have to block this guy. I thought he was cool but he sent me like 7 things in one day.
It's like a dating thing, it's like double texting.
Triple text, the rule.
Yeah.
If you double text you're done because if they don't text back then
you have 2 texts laying there.
And then the way you can do it, the way people do it now is they'll go to different social medias. They're like, okay, they didn't answer me on the text, I'm gonna try to snap them. Okay, they didn't snap me back, now I'm gonna go on Instagram.
Oh man, it's funny though. I mean, sometimes like this is what I'll do. Like I've had to, some people I just had to follow up with. I had to follow up with you. I had to follow up with, like I had what's his name, Kenny Werner on this show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
awesome.
and Kenny, oh my god, I followed up with him for like 14 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, before he finally
cool.
was like, oh okay, fine, I'll book it. It's just like like.
Yeah, that's cool that the persist, but it was probably spaced out. It wasn't like every day.
Oh no. Yeah, it was like 6 weeks apart or something like that.
Cool. Yeah, and it's good that you learned and I learned that following up is it's not necessarily like the person is usually if they're talking to you, they're not just ignoring you. They just have a bunch of stuff to get done and they forget about it and then you will send something or I will send something and then it's like, oh yeah, this is still going on. And the depending on how busy you are, it sometimes takes 14 months to get something.
Oh yeah.
Something booked. That's funny.
But I mean, it's worth it to keep that follow up going. I'm still in that process with Petrucci, so
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm talking with his manager and all that. I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about that, but I am.
Yeah.
So so the idea is like, I mean, just that follow up, and people just give up too easily.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a thing that, excuse me, especially in the music industry or in the entertainment industry in general, you have to be so persistent. Because once you get to a certain level, people are like, "Oh, do you know who I am?" Blah blah blah, and you just have people coming at you. A lot of connects like trying to connect with you. But in the beginning, you have to be proactive and be smart about it. But people give up after one, cancellation, because I think we canceled a few times. So then I wouldn't even be on this. If I like podcasts, and I'm like, that's cool that you're reaching out. And I thought I messed up the opportunity because I was like, oh dang, I got busy and I didn't answer back. But it's good that following up is, you just have to keep. That's, if anyone's like questioning whether they're like, should I send another email? Just do it. Yes, do it, but don't be annoying about it.
Yeah. Don't be annoying. Yeah. Add value when you know, if you can,
exactly.
and don't be long-winded. Just like keep it simple.
Yeah, because sometimes people will look at it and like, oh, that's too long. I don't feel like reading that right now. And then if you just sent something shorter, they would have read it. I learned that the hard way. I sent like a long thing, and I was like, they probably didn't read that.
I mean, efficiency is everything. It's like, I before I even, when I was starting the show last year, I kind of I had the initial things in place before going out to NAMM, and
nice.
And then I hit up some people at NAMM, and
awesome.
like in person, like in the after parties, I would just kind of roll up into circles and being, just keep promoting it, right? But before I did that, I practiced the 15-second elevator pitch.
Nice. There we go.
It's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I have a show where I interview seasoned artists on topics ranging from health, relationships, lifestyle to social media and entrepreneurship. It's like,
dang, I like that. Yeah, because you actually sold me with everything's about music, but you were talking about how it's about different things. Even though I'm a musician, you like to talk about other things. It's like, that's really cool. I want to do that. That immediately I thought I wanted to do that. So I like that pitch.
I had to think. Look, listen. It was longer. Then I cut words out. Then I cut it. I just kind of kept like I recorded it. It's like, is this under 15 seconds?
You're like, 14.9, perfect.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, pretty much. And so, on the follow up thing, like, I mean, what I do, if people are curious, I have a list of people who I see once in a while. I was like, oh, this person's interesting. I see they have a fitness thing going on, and they have their music. I think there'd be an interesting conversation on the show, and so I write their name, and then I hit them up, and I write where I hit them up, when I hit them up.
Oh, that's good to remember when and where.
Yeah, so you're not
sometimes
like,
I'll forget.
Yeah,
like, what was I doing that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're hitting up a lot of people, it's.
Oh yeah. That's a good, if you're listening, write that down, guys. Why you hit them up, when you hit them up. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good, I'm gonna take notes right now. I'll put that on my phone.
Go for it. Yeah. So that it's one thing that people aren't, I think musicians, because like I'm talking to musicians primarily, right? And the funny thing is, from a personality perspective, we have we're not very conscientious, right? We don't have the organized like that doesn't come naturally to us to be like organized and to have like systems in place and to do things in a very routine kind of way. Yeah, that doesn't come natural. So once you set that for yourself, then since it's not you let's say you wake up and you look at something written down, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do today. Okay, got it. And that's a huge tip right there, is just, take something that doesn't come natural for a human being in general and just, force yourself to do it by reminding yourself with maybe notes. That's what I do. That's what I was talking about. Okay, I'm going to write that down because I'll forget about that. And then a year later, I'll think, oh, if I just did this, this, and that, it would have worked out. And then I start beating myself up. I'm like, dang it. Most people will hear the things and they'll know what they need to do to get what they want, but they'll never write it down. They'll never journal on it. They'll never reflect on something that they know. They'll just keep it up here. This is not a good storage unit. Oh no, sometimes it disappears. Oh yeah, exactly. And it's dependent on emotion and whatever state you're in. So if you journal or you have somewhere you take notes and you revisit that, and you hold yourself accountable to doing the things that you had the idea to do.
Yeah.
Experiment, it's like people think that they need to have things figured out in order to just start doing them.
No, you got to start doing it. That's
Yeah.
something I learned also is just start. Even if you feel like you have 60% of your plan going, you'll never be at that 100% mark. Because especially if you're an overachiever, like I consider myself an overachiever where everything has to be perfect before I do something. But I learned very quickly I would get nothing done if I didn't just take that quick little leap of faith and just let's do it. Yeah, you have to have that mentality. And then actually I think there's some people that don't have a high enough standard, and it's reversed, and they're always putting something out there. They're always doing something super unprepared, maybe like 1% prepared or something. I'm just throwing out a number, and then they're like, oh dang. So there you have to find that fine balance of, okay, am I preparing too much? Am I not? Should I just go for it, or on the flip side, am I just always like, this is gonna happen without even putting any thought in it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I always tell myself, and it's like sometimes that balance like can disappear, and you're like, I don't know what's going on right now, but that's when you just have to do it. Like when you start overthinking it, that's when I realize, okay, I got to do this instead
Right.
of making excuses for myself.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes, like, I mean, yeah, like you said, like you have to see when you're going too far. It's like, okay, I've edited this so much. I have my perfectionist composer friends who haven't released music because they've just kept like editing
Exactly.
and just like, oh, it could be a little bit better.
Okay, cut that 0.00001 dB and then take that, and it's like always just something that's barely off, and then everyone looks at you in the studio and they're like, no, it's good, dude.
That's why you need deadlines,
Yeah, deadlines. Oh, absolutely. Oh man.
Yeah, because like if you don't set deadlines, you'll be dead before you release the thing.
No, exactly. Yeah, I know a lot of people like you just said that haven't released anything, and it's not just music. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are trying to do an idea or just get something going, where they're going to be their own boss, but they can't do it because they're like, it's just not good enough. But they've been working on it for years, and I'm telling them, it's actually, if you do it and you fail, that doesn't mean that it wasn't a good idea. It just means maybe you didn't approach it the right way. So then let's try a new plan. Let's try something else. Yeah. So
You got to fail fast.
Oh, exactly. The more you fail, the higher chance I think you have of being successful, because you just learn from those failures. If you fail one time in life and then you stop, that's not good. That's not good at all.
I read a few startup books, and that really kind of helped me put that in place
Nice.
for me. It just like, how it's you can always pivot, which is
Oh, yes.
So like you can start something and you can pivot as much as 180 degrees. In other words, you can start something and completely end up doing something else, but
Yeah.
all the while you're in motion and you're not like stagnant and not doing anything, which has its own like inertia, lack of energy. Like it's really bad. There's an energy to that lack of momentum, and it's
Yeah, exactly. That's true. And
Going-
there's an energy to moving, like you're
Yes.
saying, like you just keep that going, and you're like, I never even thought of that way. That's a good analogy where you said you could be a 180 flip, but you're still moving. It doesn't, sometimes you're not like, your path isn't going straight and weaving. It's like full on, I didn't think I would be doing this, but this is working. And then
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, let's do it.
I've coached like teenagers and like kids in general, and I've taught guitar for God knows how long already.
Oh, nice.
and so in that time I've seen like for example when kids are going from high school into college, and then they're like going in undecided or something like that. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
don't go
That's
in.
No, that's not good. I always say, well, man, we're in a world where like the college diploma is almost like a high school degree now. Sometimes
Right.
it doesn't guarantee jobs, and like, because before, it's like maybe 30, 40 years ago, it was like, get this done, and you're looking good to enter this path. But now if you go into college and you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, oof, that's sometimes you get into debt and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You still don't know
Yeah.
after 4 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I would just like with the whole startup thing, or with anything, I'd basically be like, all right, well, what seems interesting, right? you don't have to stay there, right? You'll know if it's not the right thing, because once you're going down that path, you can be like, oh, you know what? I like this aspect, but not at that aspect. Maybe there's some kind of peripheral field here that I can sort of like get into, or I just don't like the whole thing and I can completely pivot to another major. It's better to start in the wrong major and change majors than to not go into a major.
That's true. That is true too. Yeah. So then that's a good example of someone figuring out their way in college. Yeah. And because some people will never do it. For me, I actually turned down academic scholarship. I was going to be my path was, I was looking to be a lawyer, going to law. And then senior year, I just said, nope, I'm going to do music. So my parents were like, ooh, okay, you got to make sure you can probably imagine that conversation. Like, oh yeah, you're going to have to work really hard. Yeah. And it's finally these last few years, I've been seeing some things pay off and people are taking me more seriously. But the first couple of years of not knowing if this is going to work it's kind of scary. But I was just thinking about that because you're talking about college and I'm like, ooh, yeah. I never went. I never went, even though I had a scholarship.
Yeah, I hear that. And I'm, I'll just put this out there. Like, I don't think college is necessarily necessary, depending on what you're doing. Of course, there's certain fields that it's, definitely
you have to. Like, if you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, anything. But there's some, like, maybe business. It's necessary. I know people that have a business degree and then they became super successful, but also I know people that don't have a business degree and they still became successful in business. So it's not,
you have to study, right? But that's a very broad term.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's becoming a broader term. You can get a lot of information online. Tim Ferriss, do you know who he is? He wrote 4 Hour Work Week.
Yes. Yeah.
And so he gave himself a investing education, and he's a very successful investor. He's an early investor in like Uber and Evernote. And
Uber. Yeah. Okay.
So, but what he did to give himself an education, he basically weighed two things. Should I go to business school and put in, like, say, $100,000 into this, into just that education, and then come out of business school, minus $100,000 and just, maybe and some knowledge, from professors who might not even be active in the field.
Oh, wow. Right? That's a crazy way to look at it. So he was like actually weighing what is going on. Like, you're literally negative 100,000 and you have knowledge. Like, it's not for nothing, but maybe that knowledge is something that's not as relevant. And then you have to still learn once you get out of college.
Or
that's kind of
right. Or or let's say take that same $100,000 and put it into a diversified portfolio, and if you lose it all, then that was your education. If you but chances are you're going to actually gain from it, and that's what happened.
Wow, I've never because I remember someone telling me that, and that's why I said that name sounds familiar. But that's a really cool way to look at it. Like, yeah,
Tim is great. I mean, like, he's up to a lot of things. He's a biohacker. He's a life hacker. He's investment guru. Gosh, a fitness guru. Like, he has so many.
If anyone's listening to this, don't just take $100,000 and put in the stock. I feel like we just made a bunch of people lose a bunch of money. But I know what you're saying. Yeah. I just wanted to say that because it's
of course,
I know,
hang that
it definitely, like going back to what we said, in a very, very well thought out way. Because even if you do fail, at least okay, I tried and I put in the work. I didn't just say, oh, I'm gonna just throw this cash here. Yeah. So that makes sense. I know a lot of people get it, but there's might be one person out there like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Word of warning, right? So, advise with your with a professional before putting your money into things.
That's funny.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's an important thing. I mean, we got to keep learning. You got to keep learning. Education's completely changing,
It is, yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful thing. Did you mostly teach yourself guitar, or did you like?
Yeah, mostly self-taught. For the first 2 years, I got, I'd say, pretty good by myself. And then, it was all through YouTube. YouTube. I learned from Marty Swartz and a bunch of different YouTube guys. And then I went to Myriad Music Academy for a couple years after that, and I learned a bunch of theory from my my guitar teacher. His name was Frank, and he taught me a lot of more of the theory. But the first half, it was a self-taught. People were like, "Oh, how are you so good?" And I was just like, YouTube. I just looked up stuff, and then I learned a lot of theory at Marietta Music Academy. But it's crazy how there's so much information out there. The only thing is that it's scattered. So like sometimes it's still awesome to have a program, go to a place where someone lays it out for you. But if you have that ability if you have that determination to where the scatteredness on the internet doesn't freak you out, and you're willing to dive deep and say, okay, I don't know what this guy's talking about, but this makes sense. And then you just bounce around, then you could learn anything on the internet pretty much. You could there's probably no stopping any. Yeah, it's insane. There's so much information.
Learn a lot. I have an interesting insight in that because I'm also like mostly self-taught player, right? I mean, self-taught. It's not that I taught myself in a cave, we have like YouTube, we have all these things, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't have like a formal teacher for any period of time, really. But the idea of teaching yourself is not something that should be limited to those people who don't have a teacher.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, that's good. That's a very good point. Yeah.
So I think that I like to tell students that I teach them to teach themselves, right?
Oh, I say that all the time because I teach guitar also.
Right.
I used to have, 30 students that I drove around locally and taught them guitar. Now it's online, but I say that so much. I'm trying to get you to teach yourself. It's not about me. It's not about you waiting for me. Maybe if you have a question, try to look it up. And if you can answer it, awesome. But if not, then I'll give you the answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's getting yourself to be, getting self-efficacy and getting yourself to have the ability to sort of take what you learn from any source, whether it's a teacher or some internet source or whatever, some book, and iterate it into every possible permutation, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And just like milk it, milk every idea and just see how far can I take this? How can I incorporate this in as many ways as I can and make it mine? Yes,
and especially when it's a concept that you like and comes natural to you within like maybe a certain genre in music is like, whoa, this is coming really like a little bit easier than this type of thing. So I'm going to run with this. I'm going to milk this. I'm going to look this stuff up. I love when my students do that. I'm like, I get so excited when they'll be proactive and take 3 extra steps where I'm like, oh, I was going to teach that 2 lessons later, but let's get to the 3rd lesson now. And I get really excited about that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did. And I could see how that pays off sometimes.
Oh, yeah. No, that's good. It's gold. It's gold. I love when people do that. And I encourage that kind of thing. And I tell them, hey, this is where, what you're doing here, but then you can move it into this. I sort of give them, I try to open their minds with every little thing, and teach things in an open manner and not being like, okay, this is the one and only way that we're doing this. No, this is just an approach, right? And, And I give them sort of the meta process, the kind of the thought behind the idea, right? And this is how I got here. And so with that same road, you can get here, you can get there, you can get there, and just sort of really,
that's good. I'm gonna start wording it that way. The meta process.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, I go super meta, like
super meta.
Super meta. Like, I start talking about like neurology and shit. Like,
oh shoot. Okay. That's. Oh. You have like the full breakdown. This is okay. Maybe I won't go that route because I might not have the vocabulary for that. But
I mean, like for example, I think about things like I think about things pretty holistically. So I guess the reason I have that approach is I also health coach and things like that. And it's
okay. Yeah, training your mind to think a certain way to get you to that successful level, whether it be music or anything else. Yeah.
Another thought from Tim Ferriss, actually, I seen a video he put up recently about like what are the most marketable skills to have, like to combine with other skills that help you be successful in a field that's perhaps pretty saturated.
Wow.
Right?
That's a good question.
He puts out useful shit. Like he puts out
that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because like even if someone's let's say a rapper, right? They're trying to that field is so saturated. I like hip hop. It's I listen to it all the time, and I hear, you know how you see like on social media up and coming artists and everyone's doing the same thing, and if the people that stand apart, there's obviously some people that get lucky or whatever, but the people that usually make it, they do exactly what you just said, where they're like, what can I offer? This is a saturated area, but what can I do that's new? And then boom, you know, it's like everyone is like, oh, it's the new guy. Oh, they start freaking out.
Right. That brings you to niching, you know, to like, you know, finding your niche audience.
Yeah.
And like me offering this like podcast for musicians on health and entrepreneurship, that's niche, right? It's
yes,
it's
absolutely.
a corner, you know. And,
yeah.
and I think people can find this corner, you know, and find an audience for that as well, you know. If you can, if you're interested in it genuinely, and you can find one person interested in it, then you can find probably, you know, a whole audience for it.
Yeah, because because of the internet, we have the world is our audience. That's really cool.
Yeah. You learn marketing and how to target people and all of that. But what was I getting at? The idea of like the niche kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was going somewhere with that. It was an idea, but it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But that's an important point, you know, just to be able to find your little corner, whether it's like, you know, maybe stylistically in your music or the image that you project.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, the skills with Tim Ferriss, right? He was talking
Yes.
about like the two of the most powerful skills to combine with other fields is writing and speaking.
Speaking. Ooh, that is true.
If you can public speak, then, you know, you might know something that most people know in your field, but you convey it better than others.
Oh, man, that is very true. Yes. Writing and speaking. Let me write that down too. I didn't know I was going to come on here and I'm going to be learning some stuff. This is awesome. Oh, man.
So, you know, that's one thing. It's great. You know, I love having these conversations because,
oh, yes,
you know, everyone has a little bit of a different insight and a different angle that they go at this from, and that we're in a collaborative industry.
Yes, it's not a competition, guys. No. It's not if you make it a collaborative industry, or if you look at it that way, you're gonna have a much higher chance. So I used to look at the music industry as a competition for the longest time, like, oh man, that person got a little bit further than me, or that person, dang it, they have more followers than me.
If you're on a game show, then it gamifies the whole thing. So that's
exactly. But now I look at it in more of a collab way, because, you know, you all can go up together. There's nothing to say that one person has to be successful. So that's a good way to look at it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that the collaboration thing is huge, because people think, especially in, like, you know, in certain styles, like, you know, people will maybe like one as opposed to the other, and then they even pin against each other, you know, like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there's like feuds.
No, this person's the best ever. No, this, yeah. And then people start, but then that actually gives them both more popularity. So it's still a collab.
Oh yeah,
it's still a collab they don't even know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the best, like, you know, feuds in music, you know, whether in hip hop or anything else, is, I mean, hip hop are the most kind of like pronounced. And just both parties come up, you know.
Exactly. That's why a lot of people try to purposely start beef with bigger people,
right.
And then the bigger artists would be like, I'm not going to give you the time of day because, you know, you're going to get the exposure. People caught on to that. They're like, oh, let's just start beef with everyone. Let's do this thing. I hate you. Let's see who responds. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, like, but you can be a fan of one artist and another artist, you know?
Yeah.
And so that, just that fact alone should kind of get people out of that mindset of like, oh man, I'm not the fastest guitar player. Or I'm not, like, you know, I don't write like this guy, or like, you know.
That is such a, even just you saying not the fastest guitar player, that used to plague me. Like, I was like, so if I'm not the best technically, why do I even need to try? Like, what do I need to, why? Literally, I asked myself that, and I still have a lot of doubt. And like, why would someone want to listen to me? Why does but I'm different. Someone else is different. It's just I finally started to come to terms with that doesn't matter. I get DMs, a couple, maybe one or two a day, where people are saying like, you're one of my favorites. And I'm like, I actually, one time when I first got that, when I started getting followers, I was like, why am I your favorite guitar player and singer? And then they're like, just cause you are. And I was like, oh, cool. And I started realizing like just someone saw something that they liked and they latched on. So if anyone's listening and you have that doubt, that heavy doubt of like, oh, I think John Mayer is a better guitar player than me. He writes music better. He sings better or whatever. Why should I even do it? Because no one wants to listen to John Mayer for 10 hours straight, maybe 2 hours straight, and then you switch to someone, you know what I mean? You got to switch it up. And then once I figured that out, I was like, oh, yes, I can do this. I can do this music thing. We don't eat, even though, like, I personally think John Mayer is one of the best singer-songwriters and guitar players out there today. But just because I think, like my favorite burger place is Red Robin, I'm not going to eat there every day. I like the burgers, but I'm not going to. Yeah, you'll be like, okay, so you got to switch it up. Yeah. So, that's a really, right when you said that, I was like, that's so true. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be you. And if people like you, you made it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard for us to put ourselves in the shoes of those people, but like, why you like a certain artist is not necessarily because they're the most technically gifted or anything. It's like that artist was there for you at a specific time in a specific place, and it just hit you in such a way that you can't even put that into words. And and it just might happen to be somebody, lesser known, or somebody who would never think themselves being that for somebody else.
Exactly. And I still struggle with that. Like, I'm not for, like, not millions and millions, but a couple thousand people or whatever. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I also think of it in the way of, like, football teams. I like sports a lot. Why do people like the teams that aren't that good? Even if you think, because I'm going back to the self-doubt part. Like, if you're doubting yourself, you're good enough, not to say run into this industry knowing you're, like, terrible. Like, be honest with yourself. Okay, do I need to work on my vocals? But once you get to a certain level and you're like, I'm good enough to play and sing and I feel confident about this, and if that doubt's still creeping in, just think of it as, there's different football teams where people pick and choose, and there's no rhyme or reason why they like you. It's just accept it and be blessed. That's what I'm trying to enter into, that phase of, okay, I'm happy that there's some people that enjoy my music. That's it. I want that number to grow, but I'm happy, and I'm not gonna doubt and ask why, because that's a huge thing for me. I still wake up some day and I'm like, I don't know why I don't even know why I have like any views on Instagram. I literally ask myself that question, because like Mateus Asado is better than me. He's better than me. Like, I'm like, why? Like, I'll just pick a name and be like, that person's better.
Right. But does that thought serve you?
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. It keeps you from being more productive and maybe even getting to that level that you think is the best. So
right.
It doesn't. Yeah.
You will never be Mateus, and that's not a bad thing.
Exactly.
You will be you and the best version of you, and then people will be like, oh, you'll never be Cory. Like
yeah, exactly. And then if someone's saying that, I'll be like, oh, come on. Like, I don't like. Yeah, you could get to my level, but that's what each person is thinking. Like, oh, you could do it. Like, I'm not anything special. I just practiced.
Everyone climbs their own mountain.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're not all climbing the same mountain. We all become this unique amalgamation of all the music that we've listened to and all the things that have influenced us and who we became as people and who we are, and it's not even that in itself that causes us to rise, but also just where we are for people in their lives when they hear us. So if you do what you're doing, you put yourself out there enough that you expose yourself to people in different circumstances, in different states of mind, you're going to trigger some deep emotional states with people who are going to get into you regardless,
Absolutely. And then there's no turning back for them. They're like, that's I want to go see that person in concert. And that happened to me with a bunch of other artists. And there's a lot of smaller artists that I can't, who is it? Lee Koch. He's very small artist. Like I think he's still pursuing music. I'm not sure. And when I say small, I mean just in numbers. It's not like he's not super well known, but I love his music. Like I listened to it a lot, and I just because I, heard him when I forget where was it? It was at like a little mini concert locally, and then I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And now I'm a fan. Like I'm a fan. There's no turning back. I just like
it's
that
not
music.
a logical process.
Yeah, exactly. People think you have to be the best, and I think he's really good. I'm not comparing love. And
Sure.
also, a lot of people forget that music is relative.
Right.
Music is not objective. It's subjective. Where someone could be like, I think that music is trash, and then someone else could be like, I think that's the best thing I've ever heard in my life. And that's something that I struggle with too, where it's like, why do I practice if someone could be like, Cory sucks at everything he does, he just sucks. Like you see these comments like, you need to work on everything, like everything about you sucks. I'm like, whoa, that's deep. I've learned to like just be like, you can think that if you want, but at least
it's a rabbit
at least
hole.
I have 100 comments where they're like, this is good, but that one comment you see, you're like, oh no, I do.
Yeah.
I suck.
I mean, yeah. Oh my God, this topic comes up a lot. The trolls and like,
Yeah.
I mean that's if you have trolls, you're in a good place. That means
I guess that's true.
that means you're doing well because it's a statistical reality that you're going to have a 1% or whatever of people that have that no matter what you do, they're going to be there on your page to let you know that you suck.
They're at your concert. They're in the front. You're like, oh my dude, get out of here. They like say their name. Like, I'm that guy. That's always funny.
They're gonna wear a shirt with their Instagram tag.
Oh man, I recognize that guy. You start messing up. Oh gosh, the self-doubt starts setting in. You can't even sing anymore. You're in the middle of your biggest concert ever. Oh gosh.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. Like just the thought, But like, I mean, like you're doing well if you have people who are hating on you. That means
that's true.
You're doing good enough for people to envy you.
Oh, I never looked at it that way. Wow, that's a good. Hey, I'm gonna start thinking of it that way.
Yeah,
it's just being envious. Come on, and I do the same thing. I find myself getting envious sometimes. I'm not that person that comment stuff, but I'll watch something. I'm like, that's really good. I feel like I'll never be able to do that. I'm like, oh, I start getting mad. I learned how to appreciate it and be like, that's amazing. But sometimes when I'm in that low state of I'm never going to be anything, and then I see something that I feel like I can't do. I'm like, dang, I won't comment it because I know that's messed up, but I'll think it, and that's still not good. Like, yeah.
Impostor syndrome.
Ooh, yes. I've been going through a very serious imposter syndrome. Like it goes up and down, but I know that all too well. I'll literally, like I said, wake up someday and be like, some days, and just think I can't play the guitar, I can't sing, can't songwrite. I don't even want to get into it, but if someone doesn't know what that is, it's just when you don't, from what I've understand, is when you don't know, like you feel like you're in a career and then you feel like you have no understanding, no knowledge, nothing of what's going on. You're like, am I that person? I don't think I'm that person. That's how I understand.
It's a frightening thing. I had that for a long time as a teacher.
Ooh.
And maybe for the first decade of teaching guitar, I felt like I don't know shit. Like, why do these people come to me? but then here's the thing. I felt like that until I'm teaching, and then they ask me a question, and then suddenly my brain does this thing where it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like, oh shit, I didn't even know I know that.
Oh yeah. I know what you're saying. I love when you're answering questions. You're like, I didn't know I knew that.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, and it's like you knew it, but you realize, oh, I do have quite a bit of information on this topic. I can't keep saying I don't know anything. I mean, people are paying you money for information. Obviously, that's an indication you know something. It's not like they would stop paying after the first lesson if you're like, okay, so this is how it goes. Yeah, just don't know anything. That's like how we see ourselves. And then,
Yeah.
there was a light for me too, where I'm like, okay, I know some stuff. I'm not gonna say I know everything, and that's what I feel like gets in my head is like when I start thinking I'm supposed to know everything. Now, if I'm teaching, I have a few students that are at a pretty high level, and I've actually told them, I'm like, we're peers at this point. Like you're right now jamming, like they're asking questions, and they're really complex music theory questions that I know the information, but like sometimes I have to look stuff up, and I'll be honest, like, oh, I don't remember that too much, and I'll look it up, but I tell them, you're able to teach yourself now. You don't have to pay me anymore necessarily. And they're like, no, I want to keep learning. And I'm like, okay, I told them, and I'm honest with myself. But a lot of students, I say 95%, like I know a lot more information, and it's all easy questions or whatever.
Right.
But
on that topic, like Michael Jordan had a coach.
Exactly.
Like,
Tiger Woods has a coach.
Right.
Yeah.
And so even if you are not as good as the person you're teaching,
wow,
you are not that person they can't see themselves from the third person, so they need someone has a keen ear or eye,
yes,
to see them and help coach them ahead, even if they are already ahead of the teacher, they could still keep going, so
yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's another thing that I guess if you're a teacher listening, then that's something to think about.
Oh yeah.
Tiger Woods Michael Jordan had a coach. I'm just gonna keep telling myself that.
Yeah, Michael Jordan had a coach. That's right. And it's important to, with that imposter syndrome, I think it is very useful to consider your wins, right? And
yes,
and
yeah.
And just like look at how far you've come.
Yes.
Not to just like pump yourself up, but really to remind yourself like that you've come along, especially if you're in a low state. Like that should be a go-to kind of like, okay, time for some gratitude.
Exactly. That's good that's very important, because we're not saying like becomes this prideful person that's like always pumping themselves up, but when you're at that low state, you have to look back and reflect so you can at least come out of the low state and not stay in that low state and then basically stop everything you're doing and be like, okay, I'm going to switch careers or whatever. If you're doing something that you want to do, and you can look back and appreciate it. And then another thing I always think of, if I can appreciate now, I remember a time when all I wanted to have was like, I think my goal was like 50,000 followers on Instagram when I first started. And now when I got there, I was like, this is not enough. Like this is not what I thought it was going to be. Like it's whatever. Now I need 5 million or what, you know what I mean? Like now, and it's always when it comes to vanity metrics or goals in life, or like, let's say you have a goal of like, I want to play on Jimmy Fallon or like a late night show or whatever. And then you do it. What's next? If you have that, overachiever mindset, nothing's ever going to be enough. So you have to remind yourself, it's like, remember that was your goal. Be happy. Don't get too greedy and be like, it's never enough, but also don't lose that drive to where you don't keep going, upward in an upward momentum motion. So I always try to tell myself, like, I don't want to reach, if I'm blessed to reach my next goal, right, which is very, very what is it? What's
ambitious.
The word I'm looking for? Ambitious. Thank you. I don't want to get there and be like, oh, this, I have to. Right now, I'm trying to conquer that mindset now, so I can enjoy if I reach that goal.
Yeah, I think what's important to that is like, okay, set a clear goal.
Yes.
Reach it. Celebrate it. Take the time to celebrate it.
There we go.
Really celebrate it. And then, go on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
And it's important to go on to the next one because you don't want to be someone, I think Andy Timmons, when he was on the show, he told me, like, you don't want to be someone who used to do something,
Oh, that's true.
You don't want, like, someone who's, like, reached this point and, like, had these past achievements, and then for the rest of their life, they look back of, like, oh, I was the guy who did that,
Yeah. There's a lot of people just, they do it and they're like, the rest of their life, like you said, is I was that guy and not I am the person.
Oh yeah,
like,
that could be tragic, honestly. Like hitting a high goal and then just nowhere to go from there. That could be tragic.
It happens a lot, I think, like in high school. People always talk about their high school achievements, which is awesome. Not to belittle it, but like if you keep saying I was, and then maybe something didn't happen, and then you just keep looking back. You got to keep moving forward. You can't live in that state.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Some of the common things to people who've achieved plenty in life, is they had a vision of specifically what they wanted to do, and they moved toward that vision, right? And that's a continual process. They keep, they complete that, and they go on to the next one. They learn from that experience,
Yeah.
And you got to write your goals down,
Exactly. Write it down. So then, because then you can't change it in your head and be like, no, this wasn't the goal. It was more like you can actually see like, oh no, I did say, because when you're in the moment and you're thinking, first of all, sometimes goals, you feel like you'll never reach it. Obviously, sometimes you're like, I'm never going to get there. But, when you do work hard enough and you're able to get there, you can sometimes trick yourself and be like, no, I wasn't like wanting it that much. Like it was actually more. And then that's when you get that never ending cycle of like just craziness.
Yeah.
Like,
the never enough.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I tell my students in this way, like, okay, at the beginning you might have this goal to play like Master of Puppets or something, right? And then like I remember like I had such a goal, and then when I was able to play it, I already had a higher goal of some Dream Theater song.
There we go.
And
yes.
And then it was just like, it's like I didn't appreciate it at all.
Yeah. And the best moments is when you truly like actually, without even telling yourself to step back and like sometimes there's moments where you're like, oh, I'm doing this. I remember one time I was soloing, and for some reason I just looked back. I remember I think it's because I saw an old video of me playing like Sweet Child of Mine or something, and I was trying to get the solo or something, and I was like, I saw the frustration in my head, like how mad I was at not being able to do it, and I remember thinking, I could do that so easy now. This is awesome. Like, whoa. Yeah, so it's definitely really cool when it does happen, when you can't appreciate it. But that is so true, where you're like already have another goal when you're oh man, that's scary. Yeah, I got to get better at that, at appreciating things, because like I said, the overachiever mindset is sometimes dangerous, it leads to depression, I think, personally. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
Sure, yeah. And that it's important to celebrate your wins. I mean, like, these are things that you really wanted. If you think about, what did I want to do at this age, at this age, at this age? And if you start to, if you haven't been writing these things down, right? If you remember what they were, then write down what you remembered and keep writing down ongoingly, and just set yourself up for success and be specific. Like,
exactly.
It's funny. I had Adrienne Cowan a few episodes ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and she was telling me how she wrote these goals down of like wanting to play this whole festival circuit in Europe, right? And it was like a stretch goal for her, and she ended up doing it like last year. But she didn't specify that she wanted to do it with her band. And so she did it as a guest on another band, and she was like, okay, well, now I understand. My goals need to be specific.
Specific, yeah. And then, because then you can celebrate those goals more. So that's a good point too. That helps combat that never-ending cycle where you're like, no, I did do what I wanted to do. Because then her whatever brain was like tricking her and like, no, but you didn't do it with this, and then you're like, and you start freaking out. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Well, on productivity, right? Like, what it's like, what's your current routine look like? Do you have a system?
I used to have a system. I actually do have a system written down. I'll tell you what it's written down. Sometimes I don't do it, but basically I like to wake up and I like to linger a little bit, because that's just my personality. So I'll stay in my bed for like 30 minutes or whatever, just kind of loosening up, because I wake up slow. But once I'm up,
what time do you
wake up? I actually I used to wake up early, like around 6 for when I was teaching music, but now I wake up super late, like 11, 12.
That's not bad.
Because I stay up. Because I stay up super late, and I write music super late. That's just kind of the routine I'm on. Yeah. But I'll wake up, and then I'll try to work out. Yeah, I go. I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right now.
Oh, sweet.
So that's something that is fun. I can't do it right now because I actually got in a car accident, which is and then I have whiplash, and I tried to start training again, and it messed it up. But anyway, that's kind of throwing off my routine because usually the Jiu-Jitsu gets me like feeling good to come home. Usually do a bunch of emails, answer a bunch of emails, talk to my producer about some plans, and then I get to writing my music. And then actually no, reverse. I start teaching online students, and then after that I'll write some music, and then after that it's just whatever after that. So it's like, wake up, workout, and then actually wake up, pray, read the Bible, workout, and then teach, make money, and then go on to my writing music and having fun. That's a perfect day, though. I don't do that every day.
Sure.
Every time I hear people say their day, I'm like, gosh, how are they doing all this? But I realized people don't always do everything they say every day, but you should be getting your goals done majority of the days. So that's my routine. I think it's a decent routine. Sometimes it feels like a lot for the day. Sometimes it feels like a little bit. It just depends on my mindset.
Sure. That's interesting. Yeah. Like putting where you put your creative block is different for different people. Right.
Yeah.
And having it late at night is pretty common. I find for multiple reasons. It's a quiet time of day. So if you live with other people, like other people are just out, like they're sleeping, and it's just like serene. You have your time.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's cool. The left brain actually starts to slow down toward the evening hours, and so the right brain can take over and be more creative.
I never even thought of it that way. So your right brain, the left brain, the logic's like, okay, I'm kind of done. I did my work. And then your left brain's like, okay, now it's time for me to shine. Because I stay up sometimes like 4 a.m.
Dude.
All the way. I'll and especially, and I used to feel bad about it. And then I was like, I'm getting stuff done. I wrote a 2 a.m. song at 2 a.m. That's why it's called that. And then, I released it. It's kind of cool. Now it's becoming a part of my process. And I like it. I like it a lot. I like staying up late. I don't care what anyone says. Hopefully, because people say you got to wake up early to be successful. And I'm like, I hear that a lot. And for me, it's different. I used to wake up early, but right now that's not the season I'm in. And,
right. And that's fine.
I want people to know that you don't have to feel bad. If you're getting stuff a lot done, don't feel bad about when you're doing it.
Right. Don't feel bad about not reaching someone else's arbitrary standards for you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're meeting your own idea of productivity, then that's what it comes down to. I mean, we could discuss the science behind maybe better hormonal production in the first hours of the night if you're sleeping earlier, all of that kind of jazz. But at the same time, it's like if obsessing over that stuff is going to get you away from actually creating the stuff that you should be, or the productivity you should be having, then it's not useful. It doesn't serve its purpose.
Exactly. And if there's a goal in mind, if you do want to wake up early and do it a certain way, reach that goal and try to get to it. But if you're in a certain season and everything's flowing well, you don't have to fix something that's not broken, so just keep going. And then if you see, maybe you're like, oh, I'm feeling really bad because maybe my sleep pattern's off, whatever, then try to fix it. But if it's in a time of a flow, just a nice little flow, don't try to fix it. Just keep going. Block out all that science. No. That's what I did. I was like, I don't care that I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put shoulds on it,
that's true.
Like Tony Robbins says, people I should do this, I should do that. We should all over ourselves, right? So,
oh man. So we should all over ourselves. That's funny.
So let's not should on ourselves. And just do the things that work for us. Rusty Cooley, he's a night owl. I had him on the show. It was an early episode. Totally actually last few episodes I've had a few people, Adrian Cowan also, she stays up to she wakes up at 2-3 p.m.
See? Okay, good. I'm not
You're not the only one, right? It can work. Just wear a good sleep mask.
Exactly.
Listen, I mean, the main thing is like the main concern, I should say, that people have with like staying up too late. From if I'm considering most of the things, it's like, okay, maybe from a health perspective, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting in the right amount of sleep and you're getting in deep sleep, you can induce that at different times, right? There's also something called Chrono Types, right? Meaning there's some people who actually do better sleeping a little bit later than others by even a few hours. Yeah. Some people go to like they're genetically predisposed to sleep from 2 a.m. Some people are genetically predisposed to sleep from 10 p.m. You know?
Okay. See, I didn't even know that. I thought every human body when it comes to like the sleep cycle is the same because based off the sun. But I didn't know that some bodies were like meant to. It was like it's that time window or whatever they're talking about is shiftable. Oh yeah. And that's why it sucks. Some people that are truly early birds, like they're when you're going through school and high school and everything, there's some people that you see like they're never tired. And then there's a lot of people. I was always the person that was always tired.
I was tired.
Always, just like I can't do this. I can't wake up at 5:30.
Dude, it was so crazy. Like in my undergrad, I had this music history antiquity class, and this one time I had it. It was boring as hell because the professor was just not engaging.
Yeah.
And it was 9 a.m. and I had to commute 2 hours to school.
Oh, so you had to wake up at like 6 almost.
Yeah, like 6:30 or something like that. Yeah. And then and just
to go to a boring class. Oh.
Yeah, and I was like falling asleep in class. It was horrid, But like they only offered it at that time. It was it's ridiculous.
You're probably signing up like, oh no.
yeah, and it's, as much as I've tried to put myself on super early routines, I stay on them for a few days and then I just fall way off, right? So as long as you can be productive when you can be productive.
Yeah.
Fundamentally. But you know what? I had Wyatt Stav on the show, which is an awesome drummer, YouTuber, and he honestly, I had him on the show because I seen a video he put up why I wake up at 2 a.m. that he put like up.
Oh, whoa.
Right? Yeah.
That's cool. Right. I did that a few times, but go ahead. I want to hear what you're going to say.
Well, basically he would wake up at 2 a.m. Like produce his YouTube videos, do everything from 2 a.m. to like 8 a.m. He would work 8 to 5. Like
that. That's cool.
He worked some dead end. Like this is before his YouTube actually took off. He worked like 8 to 5 in some like stock boy job, and then he would go to bed at like 7 p.m. or something like that, and it worked for him. And he did that for a good amount of time. He told me he even like woke up at midnight at times. So
that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
I did that a few times because my sleep pattern started getting really weird during the quarantine. So like probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I started waking up at like 2:30 or 3. And then I have actually blocks now, to be honest. Like I'll wake up at sometimes like 3 and then stay up till like do a bunch of stuff and stay up till like 8, go to sleep at 8 a.m., then wake up at 2 and then repeat that. Like I sleep in like blocks of 2. Yeah, it's weird. I'm like, what's going on?
That's called polyphasic sleep.
Okay.
That's a thing. It's a thing.
Hey, I didn't know.
there's a whole body of research behind it, and if you can maintain it, like you can sleep fewer hours and get as much deep sleep, and get more done. But I mean, I think it could work during the quarantine because like there's just
there's not like everyone's not on that like normal schedule. But once the quarantine's over, I'm probably gonna have to try to switch back to somewhat of a normal thing.
Yeah.
People are gonna be emailing me. I'm gonna be missing stuff. There's a whole world's gonna be going. I'm gonna be sleeping.
Yeah. I mean, but like the whole waking up earlier it achieves the same thing as waking up later if you or staying up later, right? So you still get those like quiet hours at night.
Oh yeah. That's true.
It's that you just get it on the other end.
It's serving the same purpose of the quiet. Nothing. The world's not busy. There's not emails coming. And you're just like, okay, it's time to create. Yeah.
I think a good thing to realize that, like a good way to realize that your schedule isn't fitting for you is that if you get to a part of the day where you feel like you start sabotaging yourself, then it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe this is a good time for me to knock out. you know, because like
Oh,
for
I never
yeah,
looked at it that way.
you know, so
Yeah.
some people they just start like, you know, you have a limited amount of willpower every day, right?
Hmm.
And once you deplete that, it's like you start making shitty decisions. You know, maybe your diet falls off, or this or that. You know,
That's so true.
you start like smoking pot, and then it just goes deep, right?
Yeah, and you're
You
just
know,
like, oh, I'm done with everything. That's when you should be resting then.
yeah,
Okay, that
right.
makes perfect sense. I like that. Oh gosh.
It all comes down to listening to your body and not like
Yeah,
some arbitrary advice. I
exactly.
think,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's interesting. As far as like your actual process when you're sitting down to write, what does that look like?
Okay, so that when I'm sitting on the right, I'd say I write my best songs when I'm not thinking at all, and the song is. I think some songwriters would get where I'm about to say the song's writing itself, where I can't even remember how it started. I can't remember how it ended, but usually the process is very uncontrollable. So like if I've gotten better with scheduling a time to write music because I started collabing with people and they're like, okay, we're gonna do this at 2 a.m. on or 2 p.m. whatever on Zoom, or maybe 2 a.m. We were just talking about that, but
Yeah.
you know, we have this schedule. We're gonna write from 2 to 4, and then the process is different then. But usually, I'll explain my most used process is when I'm just doing something completely random, and this is why I actually get like sometimes I'm like working, literally teaching a student, and a melody and a song pops in my head, and now my students know. I'll literally be like, oh, this happens probably like maybe once or twice a week. I'll be like, oh, can you? They'll see me zoning off, and then I'll be like, can you hold on a second? And I'll just go and like put something in my voice memos, and I'll be like, okay, cool, we can keep going. Like it was like 15 seconds, and then I'm so excited to get to the ideas like later at night. So then the process is I take that idea, and I'm like, ooh, that was the melody. Start putting some chords behind it, and usually I go melody first, and then chords and the range of the song, and then lyrics. Like the lyrics usually come last, but that's the process, and it's usually when those melodies come at the random time. That's when I feel like I have my best songs. But sometimes I can sit down and be like, okay, let's think of something. But that's for me. It's hard to write that way, but I've been getting better. But usually it's just random. I'll be driving in the car. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a cool idea. And I have to sometimes pull over. I always have a guitar in my car, and then I'll just like record a voice memo and then keep driving. And then I'll be like, hey, I'm on to this meeting or whatever, but when I get back home, I can't wait to explore that idea. So that's kind of the process. That's how I write.
I like
and then
the guitar in the car.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when I'm exploring that idea, it takes me back to that super creative. I don't know what goes on in my head, but it's like I just sometimes have, not sometimes, a lot of times have these melodies that just so specific that pop in my head. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm doing music. Like it's just that's some people are like, I don't have that. I just write this way, but that's what happens to me. And then once I explore that idea later in the day or later that night or whatever, it brings me back to that super creative space where I get almost envious of being back in that spot. Cause I'll be, like I said, driving, and then I'm like, oh, I got to do this 2-hour meeting that I'm driving to right now, and I'm not going to be able to explore this idea, but let me record it. And then when I go back to it, I'm like, boom, I just pop right back into that, and then I'm zoned out, and then I just finish it. And then I'm like, oh, the song's done. Cool. And then I'm super excited, and I think it's the best song ever. And then I realized the next day it was like, okay, it was whatever. But
Yeah.
you know how that works.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is gonna be the best song ever. The next day you're like, okay, it's good, it's fine.
What's interesting is that the space from which it comes, and and you mentioned, that you pray in the morning, so you're a man of faith, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so do you,
actually, I haven't been as much lately praying and stuff. I'm trying to get back onto that, but that's definitely a man of faith. Yeah.
So I feel that I can't take full responsibility for what I make because it's almost like I'm the one that's in the way.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So it's like if the stuff is just coming when you're not expecting it,
Exactly.
And I feel that way like when I'm improvising. It's like it's the less I think, the less I try to kind of like, like put my own kind of structure on it and then just let it kind of come down, the better, So
yeah.
So
and
that's
and it's the same thing. Like that's exactly what happens, and it's like I see myself as a tool when I'm writing the song. I'm just the tool, and for some reason I don't know where it's coming from, but it's channeling onto the paper or into the little my interface into my mic. It's like I'm not writing it. I'm just able to channel it onto this earth. It's an idea, and then I'm able to create that idea. And it's weird because usually those songs are my favorite, but a lot of times they're actually not people's favorites. And then the songs that I put thought into, like, let's sit down and write this, are people's favorites. And that's why it's weird. But those songs are for me. I don't care. A lot of times those songs actually do not a lot of times. Sometimes they do well, but a lot of the times they don't do well, like streaming wise, whatever, if we're talking about metrics. But I don't care. I'm still going to put it out because that's like almost for me. And for some other people, they'll be like, when people say those songs are their favorite, I'm like, yes, I have a couple people that love that song. But the songs, like, like John Mayer said, the songs that you think aren't going to do that well, that you weren't even that excited about writing, maybe you sat down for an appointment to write, we're going to do the best. It's like, but it's just, I'm mentioning that because when I'm in the middle of like being a tool and writing the song, I
like to say vessel.
Vessel. Yeah, the way I worded that, I was like being a I heard myself and I was like, that sounds very weird. When I'm a vessel for the song, it's just, that is the healing process, and that's why I do music. That's how like I stay sane.
Right.
And then the work side of music, sometimes you're working, the song does well or whatever, but and it's still fun, not to like negate like how awesome like a song would be if it's not, you remembered how you wrote it. Because I could tell you how I wrote certain songs. I can't tell you how I wrote some other songs. I literally can be like, I don't know, it just popped up, and then I'm like, whoa, this is really cool, and then I'm getting all these emotions out. So what I was trying to say is just I look at it in two different ways. There's two different songs that I release. Some are super like personal to me and the way I wrote it, and some aren't, but I release both of them, and then I just like watch my followers intake it and see what they're going to say about it. And it's really, really, really rewarding when, the songs that you like, that you're like, oh, this is my baby, does pretty good. That always feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. But you get the pleasure out of it anyway, because it's therapeutic, it's very
exactly. Yeah.
It's cathartic almost,
Yeah. It's like if you ask like a runner, someone that runs, for a living, they get into this zone, and that in itself is the reward. It's not that they're in shape, it's the act itself.
It's that zone.
So when I'm writing and that's the reward, the creation of it. And then if people like it, great. If people don't, you didn't waste time.
It's back to that flow state.
Yeah, exactly. I used to feel bad like when stuff didn't do well, or I thought people were going to respond to that differently. But then I realized, that it's actually, you got the reward out of it already. So, yeah.
That's interesting. Interesting. Yeah. That's a great way to look at it, actually, that like it's a reward enough that, it's therapeutic to even write that. And then it's just additional if somebody, even like, loves it.
But I feel like people take that concept though, and then they'll run with it too far. And then they don't want to work to, because we have to have money on this earth. Everyone has a different level of success, but the reason I treat it in two different ways is because if I ran with that concept too much, as far as like I'm just gonna write it when it comes to me, and then that's the reward, and I don't care if I'm playing, which some people want to do, but I have a certain goal in my head. So if I'm like, I don't care if no one listens to my music for the rest of my life, that's the reward in itself. It is, but I also know that to make money in the music industry, you have to have a certain amount of fans. You got to have certain, at least connection or whatever.
Impact.
So I still, impact. So I still try to get that part done. You know, I look at it in two different ways. So I'm not beating myself up like, oh man, I'm not successful, or I'm not reaching this goal that I have, which I still have some, like a certain level I want to get to. But to get to that level, usually it comes from that work ethic. It would be cool for it to come through that song that flowed out and it was like a reward and then it blew up. That would be like the best feeling ever. But if it also comes from that very regimented, like, I don't like the song that much, I scheduled it, whatever, blah, 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 it was a collab, and then that blows up, that's going to allow you to make money and then still have these other intimate songs that you get to create for the rest of your life. Yeah, right. So oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention The War of Art. Do you know that book?
I've heard of it.
So, as opposed to The Art of War, as people know, Sun Tzu.
I thought that's what you're talking
about. No.
Okay.
I was talking about The War of Art, which is by Stephen Pressfield. It's a book. Okay. It's a book on the creative process, right? He's an author, obviously, but he wrote a book on the process of creating, and basically on resistance and everything that stops you from creating, and on becoming a professional creator. And it's really that like scheduling, daily, like I'm, I only write when I'm inspired, and I'm inspired between the hours of 9 and 12 every morning, right? And so about like sitting down, having a process, and it's just, you put in the work.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's why I look at it in two different ways, because I think songwriting and creating in general is a tool. I mean, is a what is it called? It's a skill, and you have to exercise that skill. So I found out very quickly, and I got really excited about this, that before I looked at it in two different ways, like I was talking about, there's, what I was talking about earlier, where there's like the creative process, and then there's like I'm going to write it at this time or whatever. Now I'm getting better at entering that super creative process where I forget how I'm writing it with the schedule. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting to enter into that, and I'm like getting excited about that, like, because I'm like, oh man, now I'm going to get to have both. I can schedule this, and then because I've been practicing it, like you're saying, sometimes in that songwriting collab, it's something so amazing and I'm super excited about. So right. I realized that, I'm getting better at that. And, I encourage songwriters to just keep practicing. And if you feel like you can only write when you're super inspired and you're like, oh, this melody popped in my head, try to exercise that and just sit down, create a schedule, and then maybe it can start.
I think the schedule, and I mean, that book is really great because it really tells you how to get into that state better. And part of it is a ritual, right? It's like, I'm sure you have a ritual that before when you sit down, it's not like, it's not like different every time. It's probably some key things you do in a certain order that sort of like lines you up to be in the right state, you know, maybe you open some software, maybe you like, I don't know. So what does that look like for you?
Not the that, ritual, it's usually just picking up my guitar. That's it. I can't write a song without a guitar. I don't think because even in like my most recent song, Falling, it starts on piano. I had a guitar in my hand. Like I had to have the guitar in my hand, and my producer was playing the piano. But I had the guitar, like, is now, I have to have it to write, and it's not necessarily like a crutch. It's just my ritual. Like, right. It's right. There for some reason. It's like, it's just creating this energy. I don't know. If I'm sitting there writing a song without a guitar, I'll feel like fidgety, like, oh, okay, I don't know what's going on right here. Yeah. That's it. That's pretty much it for me. There's nothing else. Like it's always a different style.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, just having I feel that way too when you're a guitar player. It's just like this, it's like you don't feel whole without it, Yeah,
it's like you're missing your third arm. What is going on here? Yeah,
I hear that. So I honestly, having that process is very important. You mentioned something. It's like collaborating. You see, when you're working with another person, that's a whole other dynamic.
I used to be so bad with writing with people, because all I did for the first couple years right by myself, and I didn't understand when you're writing with other people, you have to look at the song from a what's best for the song, not okay, that's my line, don't take it out. Like I used to be like, oh no, I used to get offended, like, and then people were like, man, you can't write well with people, can you? Now it's like, you obviously got to find the people you gel with, but now it's really fun because I'll be like, you're right, that's terrible, and then like for me, like a line, I'm like, oh, that's terrible, and they'll say it and they'll be like, you're right, that's terrible. But and vice versa, people trust me to be like, that's not that cool of a melody, like, you're right. And then when you get on that like, we get in sync,
this
trust, the song turns out so well because both people were like, no, we're trying to write this song, we don't have this pride war going on, it's just all about the song. And a lot of people, they get into, I can't write with people that are sitting there and they write 99.9% of the song, and like you know there's like an amazing idea, and they can even tell, they're like, it's pretty cool. You can see them thinking, and they're like, no, but we're gonna do it this way, and you're like, dude, you know. It's hard to, you know, when people they just basically wrote the song by themselves, and vice versa. That's what I wanted to do in the beginning. I was trying to write the song by myself, and that's not collab.
Well, I mean, you know, there's you know, I have a band, and we do things pretty diplomatically, you know, and just it's a very I guess democratic, you know, like we have like we vote on parts, whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually cool.
Yeah.
I for this melody.
Well,
raise your hand.
I mean, like, you know, I mean, sometimes it doesn't even get to that point, but if someone really feels strongly about this part being in there, then they give them.
Oh,
you know.
I like that, going based off passion. Like, okay, I'm gonna trust you that if you really like this, we'll put it in.
Yeah. And it's like if you're working with other people and you're used to working alone, get ready for compromise.
Oh, absolutely. You have to compromise. That's the part I didn't know. Yeah.
But and rather than thinking of it as a compromise, like you said, it's not about you, it's about the song.
There we go. Yes, it's the song. Do what's best for the song. My guitar teacher, he told me something when I used to take lessons. I always wanted to add, this is when I first started getting into songwriting, I always wanted to add like maybe like a 3-minute solo in the song. And he's like, well, is that best for this song? And I was like, yeah. That's what I used to think. But it's not always the best. Now I can finally, I think I have like maybe 1 or 2 songs without a guitar solo in it. It's still a part of my writing, but I definitely do it in a way where I can integrate it in a more natural way, and not like, here comes the solo and then it's just going and going and going, and people are like, oh my gosh, when is this going to stop? You got to do what's best for the song.
That's true. Exactly. You got to do what's best for the song. And sometimes, I mean, guitar solos are great because they're just like these high points, you know, or maybe not. Maybe they're just like kind of a little bit of a, because solos could be simple and they could just kind of take you away, almost like, you know, act as a bridge or something. You know?
Yeah, like a bridge. Yep. And then that's usually how guitar solos or any solo, the purpose of it serves as like, okay, we're not gonna, it's a bridge essentially, but then sometimes it's like the main part of the song, sometimes it's not, sometimes there's no solo. So I started off on guitar, and that's why I was like, there always has to be like a long Jimi Hendrix solo in it. I don't care what you guys say, this is what it's gonna be. And then I realized, like my song Believe has like probably my longest solo in it, but it fit the song perfectly. It's a long song. And then, you know, my song, I can't even think of the names of my own songs. It's funny. I can't, I'm literally blanking out on the name of my own song. I'll think of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a solo in it anyway. It's just, you know, there's no guitar solo. So that's the point.
I mean, sometimes songs are so complete that putting a solo would be superfluous. You know, like it would be just like that. That's just extra weight that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, it literally makes the song worse because the song was whole and complete, and then you're trying to add something into it, and it's already just a complete thing. You can't make it work. Yeah,
I heard Bono talk about the songwriting process that you two kind of employed, and it's simple. I mean, it's interesting that they take a song, they write a song, and then they spend months removing things from it.
Oh, I've heard of that. I've heard people do that, and I haven't explored that process too much, but I think I'm going to start there, start doing that, because I actually go opposite. It's always like super minimal, like as minimal as possible, and then I'll be like, oh, that's way too empty, and I'll add one thing. And like, oh, but I want to do the reverse. Like I've heard of that process, and I want to just write a song, put everything in it.
It depends on how you end up writing to begin with. If you end up writing a kind of more of a skeleton, and then then you can kind of artfully add things over time. But like the way I write, for example, it's like over the top, like progressive metal, you know. So it's so I'll have all the bells and whistles in, and then I'll realize, okay, you know what, maybe I can pull some things out here and here and here, you know. And then also in the production process, you start adding silence and you know, and like you can really clean things up, and then every note is just that much more potent.
Yeah, exactly. And it is almost like similar to a guitar solo. Sometimes, you know, when you're going crazy doing a bunch of stuff, that's awesome. But sometimes it's like if you're doing each note and you're really very particular, and with each note, people are like, ooh, each note means more.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my favorite guitar players were able to explore the depths of both. The depths of the simple and the depths of the complex, and then incorporate them together. And then you have this like a range, you know? Yeah,
and you're like, ooh, you could have went, because when you know the capability of someone and they don't always just you appreciate it because you're like, ooh, they're really feeling that right now. And then, oh, they're feeling the speed. Now they're not feeling that speed. Like you can tell when someone's forcing something when they're just like, hey, look at me, guys. And that's,
yeah,
you know.
I mean, like, you know, there is a place for everything, you know, shock value of like, you know, especially in I play prog metal, so it's like, you know, there's a certain element of just like shock value of just like, oh my God, you just like melt someone's face.
Yes.
But then how much more impactful is it that if you go from that to like something that's just like so simple and just, you know, that dynamic difference is
that you have to have because one dynamic is never, like, not never, but a lot of times it gets old, you know, to listeners. So that's why when you're going up and down with those dynamics, you can keep their attention longer and they're really, really into it. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, even in improvising, like when I teach that to students, I tell them, okay, you need to tell a story here, and a story can't stay in one place.
Yeah, if you watch those action movies where it's like every second is an explosion, you're like, okay.
Dude, I actually fall asleep. I fell asleep in Transformers 2, like in the theater. I actually dozed off. And the action.
It was too much. It's funny that you said that because that's one of the movies I was actually thinking of. It's like certain movies but it's like so much every second, and it goes to this can be the opposite too. So when there's a good storyline, you know, that's what I tell my students too. You have to tell the story.
Yeah.
There's ups and downs.
Yeah.
There's not just all ups. There's not all downs.
I love Quentin Tarantino films, right?
Yes.
And
me
like
too.
One of my favorites is like Inglourious Bastards, right? It's such a good movie, and like in the first scene of the movie when he's like on that they're on that farm, you know, and it's just conversation for like 10 minutes, but it's so tense.
It's so deliberate. It sets up like a lot of things.
Everything. It's just like the pipe and like just the glass of milk, you know?
Yes.
I love that.
I think what it is we're like, I'm seeing that when something, we talk about movies or like, and it relates to music and all art, is when you slow things down and things are a little bit more lower, you can notice each detail, and then it means more to you. And then if you see that later in the movie or whatever, you're like, ooh, it's like that connected. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You can really, you get to look at the details. You get to appreciate the scenery. Maybe you get to look around in the house they're in, like, and be like, what's going on?
So in terms of music, like I'm thinking of like the beginning. There's a song, Dream Theater song, "The Best of Times."
Oh yes.
And just the beginning. There's just this like super slow acoustic that's just like one note at a time, da 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 da, you know, and it's just like, it's so powerful, you know. And then there's a little violin that comes in.
Exactly. Yeah, and it hits you. Like if they started off that song in a different way, it probably other parts of the song wouldn't
Right.
mean as much. It had to
yeah.
be there. Yeah.
Oh, and then later in the song, they break into that same melody, but with such like a thematic. It's like an anthemic. They get
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you know
It's
what I'm
like
saying? Oh my god, dude, my hair is standing thinking about it.
Yeah, standing up. That's awesome. Just
Yeah.
getting the chills. Do you ever get those chills like when you write something or hear something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed I started started happening to me when I started writing music, and now I get chills from other people's music more. Now that I write music, it's like whew, sometimes I'll get that chill and I'm like, that was amazing. Oh,
Oh
that's
yeah.
a rush.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I mean that's part of what got me into music in general, like as just getting and becoming a musician. It was that like nothing else induces that. You know?
That's true. For me, there's very few things. Like it was, I can't even. Yeah, what else does that? Let me think. Maybe nothing else does for me because it's different for
Yeah,
everyone.
sure.
Like it can be, but for me as a musician, there's nothing else that makes me feel like that.
Yeah. And so
Yeah, I'm learning
yeah.
about myself right now on the. This is good. This is good.
Yeah, this is often constructive for people. So it what's interesting, yeah, it's like I mean, I think some other context that I've gotten that was like maybe certain movies, like you know, at certain times in the movie, like I would feel like something that just they did a really good job of eliciting my emotional response, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, yeah, I'm still thinking about what you said. Now I'm like, I'm trying to think about what else makes me feel like that, and I can't. I'm gonna have to think about it later, or else I'll just be zoned off the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I get into things, but
yeah,
the idea of it, like you know, like something that just can reliably get you into that state.
that's what it is. Yeah, it's the reliability because some other things do, but I remember it's usually just a first experience thing. That's why I started going through like experiences in my life, things in my life. I've had that feeling, but it didn't happen again from that thing. But music, it's consistent, not
Yeah.
all the time, not every single day,
Right.
but like you'll be like, ooh, I felt it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Especially if you haven't heard it in a while, it's like it'll
Yeah.
hit you again.
Yeah,
It's powerful.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and to be, you know, it's such a privilege to be able to make that kind of to be a part of that process and to you know to be that for others, you know, to help create that the space where they can experience that and experience just almost like just a piece of divinity, you know, through,
that's true.
you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Because
Yeah.
you know we can't, like I said earlier, we can't really take full ownership of this.
No way.
We're
yeah,
just-
I can't.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
kind of playing with what's there, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
It's powerful.
You see me thinking. I'm like thinking of because
Yeah.
I just started like really accepting that I'm gonna do music as a career because this whole time I had so much like why am I doing this, but you even saying that, and that's what I was thinking of a few weeks ago and throughout these last 2 weeks. I'm like, you know what, I'm happy I'm a part of this process. I'm happy that I can add to it, and that's my purpose. That's what I'm gonna do, and I'm tired of just like downplaying that because I used to downplay it a lot and be like, whatever, it's just me that feels that. It's just no, but there's a lot of people that music heavily, deeply affects them. So
Yeah.
I can't just downplay that and be like, no, there's no reason for what I'm doing. That's actually how I've been thinking a lot,
Right.
and it's not a good mindset. It's really not. So it's good that we're talking about this. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah, you know, and you've said like, you know, you regularly get hit up by, you know, people telling you, you know, how they feel, and they might even have even deeper sentiments that they're embarrassed to even share.
Yeah, and I don't even think you're right, and that's why, because there's been a few people that have like fully, not a few, even a little bit more than a few, but I've seen this long DM, and I'm like, wow, that's dang. But then going back to the haters, that would get in my head even more than that huge, awesome, long message. And I'm like, no, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, I think that we just are susceptible, maybe evolutionarily or some other way. I mean, we're just susceptible to this negative
Absolutely.
feedback.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a survival instinct, you know, like,
it is.
you know, so
I think I heard Joe Rogan talk about that because I watched his podcast,
Yep.
and he was saying maybe it's from like the like a survival instinct. Like it's because that used to be something that was so you have to pay attention to what's negative because it could be life or death.
Yeah.
Now we still hold that trait, and these things aren't life or death. It's just hate. You just got to disregard it. But it's like in your blood, and you're like, I hate this.
Right. Yeah. No. And so it's important to sort of like, you know, to have some go-to way to dismiss it, you know?
Yeah.
Because like if it's someone in your DMs, I mean, for me, it's like if someone kind of trolls or says something negative, I realize that it's not an attack on me fundamentally. It's really just their experience, right? And you know, you can't be responsible for how people respond to your stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I'm
You're
saying?
right. You can't be responsible for like their experience, like you said, and why they're saying it. They're gonna say it whether you put it out or not. They're gonna say it to someone else whether you're there or not. That's just they see a certain thing, they're like, whatever is going on in their head, that's how they're gonna respond. So you're right. But it's hard to think that because it's like it's so personal.
Oh
you
yeah.
hate me.
But that's the thing. Here's the funny thing. That person would never say that in person. He would never. It's like this is a phenomena of the 21st century.
Yes.
This is not.
And something funny though. I started doing. First of all, you're right. They would never say that in person because after a show, if someone doesn't like what you did or they think they just leave or whatever. They wouldn't go up to you and like slap you in the face.
No.
But I do this really cool thing where when I see something like really gets on my nerves, like sometimes I'll just, for some reason I let it affect me. I'll literally click on their page. Usually it's a guitarist, throwing the hate, or a musician. I'll just follow them and then I'll like their stuff and I'll comment. And usually it's good. They're a good artist. And I'll be like, this is awesome. I'm not lying. I'm not even doing it sarcastically. I'll listen to it. And then they're like, oh no. Like, I think 100% of the time they've DM'd me and said, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know why I said that. It's like, they're like, I actually think you are pretty good. I was just saying like, maybe, you could use a different mode more. And then I'll be like, well, I don't like the Dorian mode that much. I just like using this mode and that's what I like. And like, okay, you're right. And it's like, you know, it's like that's happened multiple times. And once I've done that more, that's how the doubt has helped, like kind of been dissipating. Cause I realized, I did that. This guy was like freaking out. He's like, oh no, what have I done? He's like, you hate me and you're gonna, and I was like, no, I just.
You would never think that you would actually go out of your way to do that.
Yeah. Follow like all his stuff and not even sarcastically. Like this person was a good guitar player and I was like, this is good. And then he's like, oh shoot, this is embarrassing. Yeah.
I mean, let's put it out there for people. Like, listen, if you are trying to elicit an audience, you're trying to elicit a response from an audience, you're trying to grow you can't be putting that out there. You can't be like, hating on people. Like, that's just not how it works.
That's not, I never did that ever. Not to say I'm perfect, like I don't, but I'm just saying that specific thing, it's easy not to do. Just even if you're thinking it, don't do it. Just, it's not a good idea. And then also, it makes you susceptible to way more criticisms. Because imagine if like you built your whole career off of like saying everyone sucks or whatever, and then you actually did end up getting big, and everyone's like, you suck. Like everyone's gonna be like,
no, because like you're just opening the floodgates. You're like
floodgates. Like everyone's gonna, even if you're really, really, really good, all your comments are gonna be like, if you're known to be that hater, everyone's gonna like hate you or whatever. So that's not. It's not a good way to live. Right. It's gonna suck.
More people should be like The Rock, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
Just spread love, you know? I mean, if you only spread love, you're rarely gonna get much else back in return, you know? And it only takes looking at great people like, you know, Mother Teresa or like Gandhi. He wouldn't hate in return to hate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look at Nelson Mandela. I mean, he got put into prison for 40 years and he came out with love and, you know, and wanting to help people that put him into prison.
I still can't understand that. That makes scares me. But you know what? That's amazing. And if you think about like it's what you said a little bit earlier, like if you respond with love, it's going to be most likely a solution, and you'll talk to that person. But if you give into it and you're like, oh, but I'm doing that, and you comment, and then you're like, or whatever, if someone's throwing hate in real life, and then you start giving them the time of day in that area of hate, it's going to get worse and worse. You guys are going to start arguing.
You're adding fuel to fire. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're just like, in a way, turning the other cheek, not to say you have to be a pushover, but
no, you have to stand your ground. But one of the best social, one of the best things I learned, Crucial Conversations, critical book, right? As far as like dealing with like high tension.
I need to start reading more, man. I used to read a lot more, but I haven't been reading as much. You're like throwing out these books. I'm like, I gotta start reading.
Audiobooks, man, while you're driving.
Oh, okay, there we go. I might start doing.
There you go. I can send you a bunch. So, Crucial Conversations. I think this was from that one. Basically, if you respond to somebody who's attacking you, right? Now, obviously, you're not going to allow yourself to be attacked, but physically. But if they're just kind of, judging you or barking at you, or whatever, and they have their voice raised and that kind of energy, it's so easy, and it's the likely
it's like the natural instinct to
like
give in.
Exactly. The natural instinct is to just give in and respond in like. But if you are calm and you respond just in this normal tone, and they keep speaking loud and you're speaking at a normal tone, eventually they're gonna feel stupid for like just like being
and
all
everyone
aggravated.
Around can see. The best part is when everyone else defends you. You don't have to say anything else. That's usually what happens when if someone's just spewing that hate, you can just be calm, collective, and everyone else, the 99% of people that were supporting are going to be like, dude, come on, man. I don't know what you're saying, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, that's a good point. And it's hard to do it though. But it feels good. Now it feels good. I don't respond in any other way. Sometimes I'm sarcastic, but a lot of the time.
yeah.
But that's the one thing. But a lot of times I try to be,
like there's different approaches for sure. I like the approach of kind of being very constructive and responding with love, even if they're hitting me with hate. So, which is what you're doing pretty much, and you're
and respond, because people want respect. That's like what they really crave. So I want all of us crave respect. So when someone, it feels like they're disrespecting you, they're spewing this hate, and then when you respond with respect, they respect it, and then they're like, oh man, I gotta respect this person back. Usually that's what they're gonna do. I mean, they're not gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say they're coming in for infamy, like because they can't because I think they can't, get their voice heard otherwise. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Yep. So that's how I handle that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, man. Like, there's this guy Marbin. Marbin is a combination of two names. Marbin. Oh, Danny Rabin. He was Danny Rabin. He's a nasty guitar player, really nasty guitar player. He plays in a band called Marbin, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And so he and they play some gypsy jazz kind of stuff, and it's very fun stuff. They play it on Cruise to the Edge, and that's where I initially met them. But like I had Danny on the show, and he's hilarious. Like what he does, what he does, like he gets troll messages, and like DMs and or comments, and then he'll take screenshots of like his interaction, like because he'll respond because he's like such a troll, like in the best way, right? So like without like calling them anything bad, he's like with questioning and rhetoric,
And then so he'll respond to it, take the screenshot, and then put it out there.
Yeah, and then he put it up as an Instagram post, and just it's so funny. Like just see, like it's like Marvin Strikes Back or something like that.
It's like a series.
Yeah.
That's good. It's funny. People are probably gonna start playing into it. They're like, "Oh, I want to be a part of the series." They just spew hate and be like, "Let's get some of my fame."
Oh that's I could see that happening actually. That could invite more.
But I like that approach though, because I think I might have done that on my story one time. I was like, look, I put up the comment. Sometimes you have to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just got to.
Yeah. So, like all of this stuff comes down to, like if you're out there not spreading hate, not like putting hate on other people's pages, right? There's something more fundamental to think about that people aren't considering. If they're out there, leaving all these like troll comments and whatever to try to get some infamy, they don't realize the fundamental nature of relationships and networking, and that this is a people business.
Yeah, it's not the internet definitely made people feel invisible. Like
Right.
I don't feel invisible anymore because I have some sort of platform, but before I did too, and I definitely sometimes wanted to give into like no one knows who I am, whatever, I still feel that because I'm not like some huge star or whatever. So the internet gives you like that cloak, but people don't understand that it's people see you. I feel like people don't know that I see. First of all, I'm not even like that. I'm not like famous to where I'm getting so many messages where I can't even keep up with it. Like I do have a couple, maybe like 100 messages like a month or whatever, but it's like I can read those. It's not like, so people think they're invisible people, and it's like, come on guys, you're really hurting my feelings. You guys gotta stop this.
Right.
You're not invisible. You're not.
I mean, but like as far as like people coming up, right? Like and this can be in any context, because like for example, like let's say in person, right? And speaking guile, right? Like talking behind people's backs, all right? So at NAMM, for example, I'm standing around, chatting with people, and I'm not gonna name anybody. But like, people talking shit about other people, and when someone does that, it's like, what's going through your head? You're like, okay, so that's what he's saying behind that person's back. I wonder what he would say behind my back.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I really don't like that behavior of. It's the same. Actually, I never thought of it that way. That talking behind people's back is that same feeling of when people are spewing the hate on social media. It's like, this is what they're really thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just another forum. It's another group of people, but you can go and read that,
That's true.
It's kind of, it stays there. It's like a stink,
I don't block, I don't delete this stuff. I just keep it. I feel like that's also showing weakness too. Like I can't have this on my page,
Right. Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I wouldn't want to shut down discourse, leave the person there and let their comment shine in its ridiculously and then and let people, like, I mean, that's the essence of like free speech, right? That's just like people, when people like out there just saying stupid stuff, like it will expose itself.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, especially when it's not true.
Yeah.
I think the thing, to pivot a little bit, I think the thing that people get hurt the most about is like when it's true. So if you put something out there that you're not that comfortable putting out there, deep down inside you shouldn't have put it out there. You're like, oh, I should have changed this. I rushed it, and then someone points that out. You're like, ooh, and it's
they dig in.
It makes you, So when it's something, and that's when it actually affects me the most. This is not even like about followers and hate. It's like about just someone saying, oh, you should have did this and that, and I'm like, I know I shouldn't have, I just rushed it. But when it's something I put out there that I know I'm super proud of, if there's any form of hate or just like you should have this, someone thinks they're giving me a suggestion, I usually think, oh, thanks for the opinion, but I just like the way I did it.
Right.
It feels so much more confident in it. So that's something that I would encourage everyone that's listening, is just like, if you put something out that you're not that proud of, the hate or the criticism or you should have did this is going to hurt so much. But if you put it out and you like, it's ready. I personally love it. You put your heart and soul in it. You're going to, when you get that whatever criticism or someone's like, you should have did this, you should have, you're going to be like, thanks, but I already went through that process, and I
Yeah.
shouldn't have.
Well, you
Yeah,
know
I
what?
like it.
Like
Yeah.
you've mentioned this earlier about like not being like not being an overachiever too much, right?
Yeah.
And that like or underachiever, let's say.
Yes.
Right? And,
Yeah.
and so like if you kind of put stuff out there kind of too quickly and you don't really watch for quality and you know where it's lacking and then people point it
Yeah.
out, that it stings. Yeah.
That's the worst. Like, it's like someone just
Right.
took a dagger, because
Yeah.
you're trying to put it out and you're trying to be like, okay, hopefully no one's gonna notice. Like,
Right.
hopefully no one. Like a quick example is like, let's say you're recording a song, and there's an area where like something is muddy or something's just, and then someone's like, oh, that's low quality, and you're like, oh, I knew that. It's just, you just take the time to make sure that you're really proud with it, so that hate doesn't sting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the balance between that and not too much of that, right?
Yes, because then that mindset can take a hold of you, and you could never release it because you always think someone's going to criticize, which someone will always criticize. But you have to know that when you're truly deeply proud of something, the criticism is not going to hurt. Really, it's just going to be like, I finally got to the point, because especially like family, and like everyone has an opinion on what the music should sound like. And when they were right, which sometimes they are, it hurts because it's like I put something out or whatever, and it's like, but when I'm like super proud of it, and close people to me are like, oh, you should do this, that, and I'm like, oh. I just think that in my head, and I'm like, thank you for the input.
Yeah, if you're confident, then people can say what they're going to say, but you know what you did, and you're proud of what you did. So it's,
and there's a reason why you did it, because like you and your producer, and you've explored the idea that they said you should do, and it didn't work. And then because that's where the time comes in, and I notice I'm definitely like in that space where now every song I release, I want it to be where it's not too fast, not too, because I think I've done that a couple times. I won't say the songs because a lot of people like them, so I'm just like, you know what, whatever. but I feel like I did put some songs out too fast, or even like videos on Instagram, or even just anything, like playing a show where I didn't practice enough. I could have practiced more, and I messed up. Usually live people are like, that was amazing. They'll still say it's amazing because you're in person, but you know like what you've kind of done better, and it's just that balance. It's just the balance, because you could take that thought and practice and know you're ready, go out, play the show, and then still critique yourself. That's not good.
Listen,
not good.
We all fall short of the grace, right?
There we go. Yeah.
we're not always in our best form, in our best state. We don't always get enough practice,
Yeah.
But what's important, I think, is that when and if we do mess up in some kind of way, or get an ill response or something like that, we are quick to recover from it and forgive ourselves.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly.
Like,
and exactly. And forgive yourself if it's like something you knew you could have fixed. But if it's something you know you can't, you're not going to fix, like you deliberately did it a certain way, and someone's saying you should have did, it's like, no, I'm not going to forgive I'm rambling, but like hits very close to me because of all the like doubt I have in my head, and like when someone, it's like a soft spot when someone pokes at it. You're like, ooh, oh man.
It's never. I haven't met too many people who are really unfuckwithable. So it's like we all have our soft spot,
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it's an important thing. I mean, another book.
That's good. No, it's awesome.
What was this? It's a Mark Manson.
Okay.
The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Or the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Yeah,
I need to look into that one.
Yeah, that's a good one, right? And
I like the title.
Yeah, and it is a subtle art, and that's not an easy thing. But when you can liberate yourself from the opinion of others, then you can really kind of thrive, right? And here's the thing: like I had this one opera singer on the show, and she's also a myofascial release specialist. Right, so we spoke about like that kind of like physical health kind of stuff, but
okay,
yeah, but she recounted an experience. She's an avid meditator, right?
Okay.
And
yeah.
she recounted an experience like the year prior where she had a performance, and in a classical world, it's really, really like, if you make a mistake, especially like as a singer, it's just so
my goodness,
devastating.
the classical world is insane. I know,
Yeah.
especially like with the piano, one note wrong or one vocal note, you're done. Like, or that's how people. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
I'm happy I'm in like that rock and roll world. Where you can be like,
Yeah, exactly. It could afford to be more sloppy, a lot more sloppy.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm happy about
Right.
that.
I mean, like, the artists have made a career of being like high and drunk on stage,
Yeah.
like it's like, and it's unfortunate that that's the reality, but that's just
Yeah, but it's just
yeah.
almost like a part of the culture, but
Yeah.
part of that culture. Sorry, you were
Right.
saying something.
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like very, very particular.
Right.
Very, very. Yeah.
So this is what happened. Like, she basically went through this, like, she was going for a high note, and just her voice just happened to crack in that moment, right? And she's just like, and that just didn't happen. And then she just moved on. She
Wow.
moved. She moved on, and her previous self, before being in like a big meditator, would have like harped on it, and it would actually cause like a whole spiral.
Stumbling, yeah, just spiral out of control.
Exactly, yeah, and then just start to like just be in your head and not be present with what you're singing, and all the things in the deck just all messes you up. But she was able to sort of like laugh at herself and move on.
That's awesome. I commend her for that, because for me, the way I move on when I messed up in like a live performance is like, oh, no one is gonna. I have more songs to make up for it. I'll
slide
just,
and
no one's
scrape
gonna care. Yeah,
strings.
I don't care. Yeah, or like, or I mess up a vocal note. I'm like, no one's gonna remember that because it's like my second song or whatever. I'll just make sure the last song is good. But like for her in that the field she's in, it's like people harp on it. But because she was able to move on, they're probably like, oh, that's cool, and it probably got better and better. So then people they truly did forget about it. Probably.
Not only they like disregarded it pretty much. It's like, because they do hang on every note, but they noticed how she recovered from that, and that made the performance even better.
And they probably applause like, I just loved it.
Dude, it's such a win to for everybody, for the performer and for the audience, because the audience are there plugged in. They're plugged in. They're not there judging like the guitar player in the room, trying to like see if you're like, oh, you didn't play every note of that solo right. No, like that's not who you're playing for. You're playing for people who've come to connect and to like to take a step out of their daily grind so they can enjoy this magic that you're putting forth. That's what they're there for. That's what they paid for. And if you stumble, they're there with you every step of the way. They want you to do well.
They want you to do well. Yeah, like most people that are like, the majority of the human race wants like you to do when they're connected, like what you're saying, and they're and like all the way invested in you in that moment because you're like there and they're there to unplug, like you're saying. They want you to do well. They're not going there like, I want to see a terrible show. So when you overcome it, it's like a movie. Going back to that, it's like you're at this, you hit a little low note, but you surpassed that. Yeah. And then everyone's like, woo. Yeah, everyone loves it.
There was this moment in a Dream Theater concert, actually. I remember seeing Dream Theater with Opeth, like back when Portnoy was in the band, it's like circa 2008, 9, something. And they play with a click track, right? And they messed up. They like messed up coming in, right? and they're a band that's on such a standard.
They have that high standard. They don't have that rock and roll standard, which they have like that very meticulous.
It's almost like a classical standard, right? And so like they, what happened is like they started a song, and the mic didn't work. They heard it in their heads, but it wasn't out in the room.
Oh my god!
Because they have in-ear monitors,
Yeah. Because I know what that's like, because I at my church I used to play at the we play with the click track, and that's happened to us before. The click got off, and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah. So did they recover? What happened? Did they recover for that?
It's funny. They were like playing they just played the part like another, like, you know, they started the part over, like they just kind of kept rolling the part, and then the vocals like came in. It was like a slow song, and they just kind of played the progression like more, you know.
So everyone could hear like, oh, that's not how it's supposed to go, huh?
Yeah, I know. No, this guy's like singing. He's like, there's like nothing. Yeah. And everyone's in the audience like, we don't hear you, you know.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
and they, yeah, it took a while for them to figure it out, and then they got back in the ball, and everyone cheered. It was like a winning moment, you know.
That's cool. That's cool. That's funny. That reminds me of when I went to a John Mayer concert. He's definitely like one of my favorite artists.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went there not in a very. This is okay. I'm gonna say something that's kind of like some people be like, that's a bad way to look at it. But I remember going there like thinking, I hope he messes up. No, the only reason I was thinking that is because I was in a time of like super doubt. Like I'm never gonna ever be like even close to that talent that he has. So I was going there to enjoy, but in the back of and I was excited to see him, like, not to say it like that, but I was like, I want to hear a note, I want to hear it. And he messed up one note, and it's like, I can do it. He messed up one, literally, I think it was one, he was soloing, and it was one of the best solos like I've heard. I was like, dang, it's actually happening. Like he's doing it in real life. Like I hear it on, you know, and I was enjoying it. But then I in the middle of the concert, it was kind of more of a joke when I was going with that mentality. But when I heard that note, I remembered like, oh, he is a human, and I just got happy. But that just reminded me of like how that one note that he messed up out of the entire concert gave me a boost in confidence.
It's so important. Yeah. Oh my God. That and I've had similar experiences to that. You know, like just watching certain artists. You know, and it's important not to deify your. I mean, even I almost said idols. No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I do. That's what influencer. It's heavily influenced my playing. And then what happens is I feel like we idolize these people, and then you can't ever see them live, like Jimi Hendrix or like all these, because we're never gonna build this. So it gets worse and worse and worse. Your head where you're like, I'm never ever gonna reach that level of like whatever they did.
Yeah, that's the worst if they died and it's like in their prime. It just left it on you.
Like, well, they left and they're just God mode now. Like there's no turning back. Everyone's gonna always be saying they're the best ever. It's kind of like LeBron and Michael Jordan, where no matter how good LeBron, he's kind of maybe on the downtick a little bit. I don't know, but as far as like his prime, but no matter how many like achievements he reaches, everyone's gonna still like say Michael Jordan's better. Right. And I think it's like they're different players, so they're probably tied with how good they were. But you know, there's just that Michael Jordan can't play anymore, so he's just gonna sit back and be like, I'm the best ever, and no one can ever reach that.
Yeah. I mean, like trying to live up to a dead person it's definitely a tough thing. And in a classical world, you know, one of my housemates is a Juilliard trained violinist, you know, nice. And he talks about like living up to high fits and all these amazing like violinists, like the pressure, like
gosh, man, because in that world if I'm not mistaken, you're doing a lot of original stuff, but also you'll cover a lot of music, right? Where it's like
I'd say mostly covering. I mean, like most players are not composers, so that's what I was thinking. It's like a lot, so you have to they'll listen to the track or listen to the original, and people just always that was different, the timing on that wasn't enough, it was it's always something. You're like, dude, just let me put this. I put my heart and soul into this. It's tough, man. Like people, like they get down on themselves, you know, pretty hard. And I think that's just the big point though, like to humanize your idols. You know, having Andy Timmons on the show was like goals for me. You know, it was like,
that's awesome. That is so cool.
You know, like he's just one of my heroes, and like we just chatted about like just real down to earth kind of stuff, and then you know, and he's thanking me for some things I'm telling him, and you know that just like put
you're
me,
like, sweet.
Oh my God, yeah. So
and that. Wait, sorry, what were we gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I like that, humanizing your idols and not making it to where it's they're just not a person, because I just
Right.
feel like we all do that. But yeah, that's
I
good.
think that's a cop out. If we yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah,
right.
because like if we see someone as like this unreachable strata, it's
Then you're
like
like, why try?
you
Yeah.
you literally cut off your own ability, you know?
Mm,
Like I recently started like learning some solos that previously thought impossible, just
yeah.
because like oh my god, I like it's such a crazy level. It's like, you know
Yeah.
what, let me now I feel like comfortable to like try to broach this. I'm like, I've played things as difficult, but why do I still think of that as impossible?
It's because you made that when you were learning the guitar. That was it. That was like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna do it ever. So yeah,
Yeah, and so
I see
like
what you're saying.
knocking those like almost like bucket list solos
That's
off,
awesome.
you know, and just like, okay, now all right, now I can feel like a little bit more. It's like it's an active humanization of these people,
Yeah,
and of
it
course,
helps that
mhm.
imposter syndrome feel. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
you're like, oh, I am a good guitar player.
yeah. I did listen.
It's-
I hope people can get that from like these episodes I put out. You know,
yeah.
like because like they listen to some artists and talk about things that they don't often talk about. You
Mm.
know, and just to say like, oh, you know, I my shit stinks too. You know, like
I mean, yeah, that's true. Like, it's crazy how some people like really not some people, all me including you and everyone. Like, we just it's hard to not realize the people that we look up to are just like you. They're literally exactly like you. It's not there's no difference. I'm still working through that, in my head. And it's good to like look up to people. I'm not
hmm
saying don't look up, but I really like that you're saying it's a cop out for one when you do
hmm
that, because then in your head you're not going to try, you're not going to. But now you're doing the solo and you're like, oh, I can't do it. I just was telling myself I can't. It's really cool.
to go take a step further, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, all right, so they are human. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, do they have this ungodly ability, or do they have a process?
Ooh.
Do they have habits and practices that they go through, and then to talk about those things with them, and just to find those nuggets and to have those conversations, then now you have a actual guide.
Like
It's a, you know,
guide, like a physical like idea of how they got to a certain
you have a
area, or
yeah,
yeah,
you have a
template.
regimen, a
Yeah,
template, right? So it's just
that's
like,
awesome.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, okay. So I mean, and you know, most artists have this stuff out there, but they still end up being deified, and because again,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's just a tendency of someone who it's such a long road ahead of them that they feel like they'd rather think of it as impossible rather than seeing themselves as inadequate.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. I started realizing that everyone does that. Even actors do that when like you see interviews where they're like, oh, they're like famous people, but they're like, oh, they're talking about this actor they wanted to meet, and he was in the same room as me, and I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, do you know how famous you are? How are you feeling like that? So that just proves that like if you get that and you never I mean, it's a natural tendency, because like if you grow up looking at someone on TV and you're there in that room with them, and you kind of, in a way, you forget what like value you bring. Like, let's say that actor that's like, oh my gosh, but then they always say like when they start talking to that idol, they're like, oh, I love your work, and then they start and you're like, oh, really, you like me? And then it's like starts humanizing the person that they just thought was like this person that like was floating in the air somewhere. Just it's cool to hear. I can't think of there's a couple of interviews I saw where there was these huge actors that were like, oh man, I can't believe I was in the same room we talked, and I was thinking that's a famous person. Like, you're famous too. You're still thinking that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like everyone was inspired by somebody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gave them a reason to explore those depths in themselves, and on that, another danger in deifying, especially in the music world, is that, like, let's say you really want to be like this guitar player or that singer or this that, like if you obsess over that one person, you
Hmm.
you will fail to find your own voice.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that's true.
And so if you want to ascend to their height, they didn't obsess over somebody.
Hmm.
They might
Yeah.
have been really into a few artists
But
perhaps.
then eventually they were able to make that detachment and find their own sound. And you're right, because I finally, this last 2 years, like making that attack, like I'll do certain things on guitar, vocally, and it's good to mix it up. It's good to learn, and I'm still doing that. But now there's some things that are becoming my signature, and instead of me saying, oh, it doesn't sound like that person, I'm like, no, that's actually what's coming naturally. That's what I like to do. And then that's what my followers are liking as well. They're like, I love when you do this. And it's usually something that I was trying to get rid of because it was actually a kind of original. It's hard to be original in this world of, endless creation now, because anyone could create and put stuff out there. But there's few things I think I do, very small things that, and now my followers are starting to say, oh, that's kind of cool. But in the beginning, I was actually trying to get rid of it because it didn't sound like John Mayer. I was like, that doesn't sound like John Mayer, so it must be bad. But actually,
it sounds like Cory.
I guess it was. Yeah, there we go. Yes, I'm trying to hype myself up right now so I can go wake up tomorrow and keep creating and not have that, that doubt. Yeah.
So what's looking forward for you? Like what kind of contribution do you want to create? Like what kind of impact do you want to have?
Are you saying in my whole life or music wise or what?
However you interpret that.
Okay. No, I feel it. I want to, because now I have finally realized that some people are only going to be reached by me because I'm myself and I can't reach certain people that you can reach. Like your music is going to only affect certain people, whether it be like a certain solo or the lyrics or whatever. It's going to affect that person. I can't affect the person that you were going to affect. You can't affect the person. Sometimes it's interchangeable, but sometimes it's just that one person. So what I want now that I understand that, I just want to do my job and get and affect those people that were only going to be affected by me. And maybe like not to, maybe they were, if I wasn't making music, there'd be someone else, but at least I feel like I'm doing a job now. Now I feel like I have a duty to put music out there and consider it and actually count it as important and not keep looking down on it and not say, why am I doing this? Because there's so many people doing this. Because there's so many people trying to become successful in the music industry. Right. That's another thing that discourages me. It's like there's a big wave because of Spotify and like the streaming and how we can just release stuff like that. But basically, my impact is do my job. So because there's certain people that are DMing me and saying this affected me directly in this way and this way and this way. I don't want to get too personal, but it's like, wow, that's awesome. And now I'm just trying to take those comments to heart. And I always heard artists say that and be like, oh, I'm trying to make the world a better place, and that's good. And sure, I'm trying to also, but it's really now I'm just narrowing it down to the people that were only going to be reached by me. Just focus on that. That's it. And that's how I want to leave my mark. That is my mark. I'm starting to finally see like, oh, those people, because we talked about it's arbitrary. We don't know why they like you, but they do, and they really enjoy you. Just you owe it to them. Back. Yeah, there we go. You owe it to them. I'm starting to see it as a job, not in a burdensome way, but like, oh, this is cool.
A purpose, right?
Yes, a purpose. Yeah.
Calling.
So that's kind of, there we go. I just last night I wrote music is my calling, like on my board, on my because before. I'm telling you, a lot of people are surprised by this, but a lot of people that are close to me know I kept going back and forth, like, oh, I'm gonna quit music like in a couple months if this doesn't happen. If that, like but recently, this last 2 years have been a journey of like, trying to get to a certain level, but also figure out music is what I want to do, and now I'm like really actually there. So I'm just trying to affect the people that like my music. That's it. And not be in a negative way. That my album is going to be, there's going to be some songs that are all negative, obviously, because that's just like what happens sometimes, but I want it to have a lot of positivity and end positive. So
That's a very important, that's one thing I spoke about at length in a lot of interviews, that like, if you have what seems like a negative message in a song, it's like a cathartic message, like something that like expresses like angst, and, maybe some teenager would like, be able to get through their day with it, right?
yeah,
And that's important.
yeah, that is important. Yeah.
But at the end, it has this positive twist, like life is hard, but I'm strong.
Yes, yes, and that's like my writing style for sure. It's always like rant, this, that. I don't think I can do this. Oh, this is so hard. I hate life. Blah blah blah. Not necessarily saying it like that, but kind of what in the song. That's what it's gonna. And then, but you gotta keep going. You can't.
Right.
You can't just like. It's not good to just say I'm just gonna kill myself. Something that's pretty dark, but it's like that's what a lot of people are thinking. Like, that's what a lot of artists struggle with. A lot of artistic people are like, life sucks. Like I can't do this. But for me, you could say that and acknowledge it, because how when people don't acknowledge that life is hard, it makes you even more angry. You're like, dude, come on, you can't act like everything is perfect and have bubbly. So for me, I like acknowledging it. Like 80% is acknowledging and staying in that like, oof, this is hard. But then the last 20% is sprinkled throughout the song, or throughout my social media, that I'm going to keep going, and you should keep going too, because we're here for a reason. I know it sounds cliche, but that's just.
Oh no, I hear it, man.
That's just what it is. Yeah.
Like people, you're stronger than you think.
There we go. Yes, that is true.
Yeah, and as hard as life is, we wouldn't be put here to live it if we couldn't take it.
Wow, that's true. That is very true.
So,
and yeah, wow.
Yeah. Well, like in a phrase, what do you think? What would you tell all musicians?
It depends on the type of musician.
Yeah.
All musicians. I'd say, if you truly are trying to pursue music, not just like if you're doing it for a hobby, that's probably a different type of mind process. Like it's something is soothing or relieving. But if you're like a musician, you're trying to pursue music, I would tell them, you do have a spot. You do have a spot. It's not that you can't. Going back to like that Red Robin example, it's my favorite burger or burger place, but I don't want to eat it every day. It's so same thing. You have a spot. Same thing as like another business opening up. Why does another taco spot open up? Down there's 6 in one area, and then there's another one opening up, because if it's good, if it's not like bad, there's a spot for you. People are like, ooh, another choice. It's another ice cream flavor. It's another.
Sure. Then like someone could like the color of the walls in your restaurant. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like just. Like,
it's like that arbitrary.
Yeah. Like,
I only eat at this place because the walls are blue. Like, you don't understand. Yeah. This is it.
It's all subjective. Like if you stand for something, there are going to be people who are backing you, and they're going to be behind you. And so, yeah, like I love that message. Like we all have a place in this, That's great.
Yeah.
That's
great.
And
it's not, and also it's not small too, because a lot of people think, but okay, I have a spot, but is it small? Like, is it just it's not small, because if you value each life, then even, I know a lot of people say this, but even if you affect one person, you're really living up to a high standard. But imagine if you
save
can affect
a life.
2, 3, yeah, exactly, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you can affect 1,000 people, if you can affect 2,000, it doesn't matter the number. It's all big, and if you're fulfilled through it, you have a spot and you're being fulfilled and you're affecting people. That's it. It's awesome. That's what I'm telling myself right now. I'm speaking to myself, because that's kind of the mindset I'm in now. I'm trying to live by that.
Cory, it's been awesome.
Thank you.
We went over many different things.
I know, we're just going talking about a lot of stuff. It has been really cool talking to you. Very refreshing.
Likewise, man. Likewise. It's like different people bring different things out of you.
Yes. Yeah, and I definitely, I like. There's a few things that you said in the podcast where I'm like, okay, I'm taking to heart, and I'm gonna try to use that. So thank you, for the information, the advice, the wisdom, the knowledge.
My pleasure. And,
yes.
and The more you know, the less you know, because like you realize there's so much more to learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Cory, it's been awesome having you. And where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram, the Cory Young, or just the, and then CoryYoung, the Cory Young, and then you can find me on Spotify, just Cory Young, and I have a new song coming out called "Who I Am" July 23rd, and I'm really excited about it. We're putting a lot of promotion behind this one, so we'll see how that goes. And I'm gonna be releasing my album hopefully next year, but I'm gonna be releasing a bunch of singles this year, so you can find me on Spotify, Instagram, and hopefully you're someone that doesn't give me some hate comments. No. They go on there just to be like, you suck. No, it'll be funny.
If they do, it'll be all out of love.
Yeah, I know. We already talked about it. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. All right, Cory. It's been sweet.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.
You too.